And welcome back, folks, to Gonzo Film Reviews. I have another special episode with Alex from PodcastNOW. We're going to be talking about Hogwarts Legacy, a legacy in review, if you will. Based on the fictional universe created by British author J.K. Rowling, her Harry Potter book series follows the adventures of a young wizard named Harry Potter and his friends Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley as they battle Lord Voldemort and explore the magical world of witches and wizards. First published in 1997 with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, also known as the Sorcerer's Stone in the United States. The book series took off and became a multi-million-dollar worldwide phenomenon, which included theme parks and films, $7 billion film franchise, and with spin-offs including Fantastic Beasts. And as of September 21, the Harry Potter book series has sold over 500 million copies worldwide. So that puts it up with Lord of the Rings and Roald Dahl as some of the best sellers in history. So, my guest here, I'm going to give you the floor first. What was probably the top 5 things that you loved about the game, and what were 2 or 3 things that you would change after playing it?
Okay, so combat, I think, has to be up there. Not enough people, I think, of talking about combat, but because I did a live stream where I asked that kind of question of, like, what's your top? And only, like, 1 of the 7 people said combat. I think the combat is phenomenal. I think it's fun. I think it's a little Arkham-like, a little, the free-flow combat, but also with wands, at a distance. So I think they did a phenomenal job, with that. I don't know how you copy it for other games, because I think it's something that's so good you'd want to copy it, but it's actually kind of tough. Probably the sound, and that would actually go into the combat, because even things like just using a spell and hearing the sound, or the DualSense controller is quite the device, but anything with the music is so good in this game. Even a lot of the characters, like the voice actors, I thought actually did a really much better than I thought they would do, to be honest, including the main character. I was not a fan of the male voice at all leading into it, and I loved it. They were stealing Harry Potter, like it's clearly he was supposed to be Harry Potter, which felt a little off compared to everybody else because it wasn't that, but I really liked it because it's just a very, calm, proper, kind of voice that I really did like. So say that. Sebastian, thought Sebastian in terms of characters was, but several, I think Fig was obviously great. I really liked Headmaster Black. Deke was actually brought up, I think, by my wife, where it's like, I forgot about Deke. I still do from time to time, but Deke is a really cool character, including some of the side mission where you have to go get his friend, and then you find out what happened to his friend. I love it. I absolutely that's a really good, and it's a dark side mission. So him, the world, so how it looks, in a sense, I guess how it feels. It's not the most livable, so I wouldn't necessarily say that's a strength. But Hogwarts, as a character, I would say is a strength. The paintings, all that kind of stuff, talking to you. Students are talking and they're doing general things, so that was really good. So I'd say that, and maybe like the ending, but not the Ranrock part. After the Ranrock part, phenomenal. I'll just say, I don't know if we'll go into spoilers, but like the speech, the House Cup, those were 2 of the best scenes in the entire game. So that specific part, and then things I would change. I would definitely add. Well, companions have to be better. Like next time around, they got to be so much better because Sebastian was the only, and I would struggle even calling any of those 3 a companion because they can't follow you out into the world. You can't take them on missions, so they're not really. They're just side characters that have a quest line. I don't think they're actual companions. So I'd overhaul that completely. I've had the discussion of like the morality system or like consequence. I would like to see more of like a branching path. If you're going to go RPG, to kind of simplify it, if you're going to go as an RPG, I want you to like go for it. They pretended to do that, and then they didn't go all the way. The gear system was an RPG. The choice was Sebastian, and the ending. You have 2 choices in the entire game, but nothing else. You play the game's game, and that's it. And that's okay. I like playing the stories that a game wants to tell me, but they tried to do both. They tried to say, well, it's your story, it's your legacy. It's not. But they ran with that. And so that's something I would change. Either just give us your story, we can't pick anything, or let us pick and really start to go down those branching paths. You know what I mean? So that would be a huge thing that I would change.
Yeah, I felt like Fig was an awesome friend, but
Yeah.
half the time when I was with him, either I was mad that he knew spells I didn't, or he just wasn't really helpful. So I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, I got this. But I'm definitely pro garlic. I'm part of the garlic movement. I think she should have her entire own game.
She's cool.
Yeah, everybody fell hard for garlic within the first week of the game coming out. That was to be expected. But yeah, the professors were good. They felt like 2 or 3 dimensional characters, and if you don't skip all of their dialogues when you meet them, you actually learn some really cool things. And like I think everything about the castle was well fleshed out. So it felt like all the magic was kind of there. And then the further away you got from the castle, the more you kind of get into these nooks
It's a game.
and crannies.
It was more of a, once you leave and you start to do those Merlin trials, and 95 of them and all, it becomes, what are these tropes that other open world games have, and let's insert it into our Hogwarts game. And that's what so when you're in Hogwarts Castle, I think it feels very unique, even if some of the systems are similar to other games. It feels very unique. When you leave Hogwarts Castle, it is a generic open world fluff kind of game with spells and wizarding, which like the Merlin trials are fine, but take away the magic and they're really bad. I think they're atrocious because it's the same
They're just
4
annoying
things.
puzzles.
Yeah, they're just tedious. 95 of them, way too. You know what I mean? So if you take away the magic part, that can but at the same time, like is it fireflies? Like when you have to do Lumos and you have to lead them to the portrait. I think that's a genius. That's a genius little thing. You have like 50 of them, and however many there's in the game. They're cool. And now again, if you take away the magic, but see that the magic is part of it. Is you have to use Lumos, you have to find it, you have to bring it back to the portrait.
Yeah, you gotta
I think
carry
that's
it the whole way.
extremely clever. The Merlin trials are not clever.
No, so some of them were just push a rock down the hill. And it's like, okay, damn it. Like, if I don't see this rock across town, I'm not finishing this trial because I never noticed it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the problem with the open world was that also you would open up a portal, you'd fight enemies, open a portal, go into this awesome cave, and you'd be running down there, and then my character would go, oh, this is probably dangerous. And then there's a box with a damn cloak in it with like half of my power.
Every cave is just a small little tunnel to get to a chest. That's it.
Yeah,
that was a real.
Like,
I hate it. I kept falling for it too. I was like, oh, is this gonna be the cave? That it's like a little dungeon, and then I think that's more like time constraint. Like I think they probably wanted to do that, and they just didn't have the resources or whatever. That was kind of glaring though because you see like the cave icon on the map, and that normally means like it's deep, it's long, you're gonna face enemies, and it's literally a chest. That's it, and you go back out. Very anticlimactic.
I liked upgrading the broom though, because to be honest, travel with the broom was actually nice. Like sure, it was
I love
tedious,
it.
but I got so sick of hitting flue powder and just hearing. Off on another adventure, are we? I'm like, lady, yes.
What are you up to now?
Yeah, I'm a woman. I've traveled. 15.
Yeah, the
times
broom.
to
That's
the
it. You know
castle
what?
today.
That's something I've rarely talked about or even heard. I really, even the hippogriff or anything like that. The broom obviously being different than those the other mounts, right? But the broom is super. I hated it at first. Like I think when I got my broom. I was in a live stream. I did the one live stream I did of me playing the game is when I got the broom, and I was atrocious, man. It was so because it's kind of like it's not inverted controls, but each analog stick does like the separate things. I hated it, and I still think it's not a very intuitive like design. I think you could have designed it to be easier. But I love it now. Like once you get good at it, my wife was she's bad at it. So I did all the flying trials, and I did all hers because she couldn't do it. And I was just, I beat my own times on like the other profile for doing it for her. So I think once you get good at flying, it's really fun. I just think you probably could have changed the controls to make it easier.
Yeah, once you throw them up, there's a setting where you can have the controls up as you fly. That's honestly how I learned quickly because I had this little menu pop up, and it was like, hold on this button, then let go. because I was an idiot the first time I flew. I was under the impression if you held down on the boost button, you would kind of keep going at that speed. It runs out though. There's a meter.
Right.
So then I was holding down the boost button like an idiot instead of letting go and letting it recharge. And then I was in a situation where I was.
And you get a
missing
boost if
my
you
time.
dive bomb. You get it naturally.
Yeah.
It'll go fast,
Yeah.
and if you pull up. So yeah, there's some cool things in it, and it's much more fun than the flu powder or walking.
Yes.
I just think I don't know. I think you could have, because the different analog sticks. I think you probably could have kept it on like one thing, just like a car in GTA. I don't know how like car driving has never been like perfected in like an open world game. It's like just take the best one, steal it, and that's it.
Yep, no, there's always this strange, like, they're trying to give you the fast travel option, but then the fast travel kind of, like, minimizes the interest of the world itself anyway. So, like, there's always a balance they have to strike where they have to make fast travel an option, but also make just normal travel a viable option if you want to see some scenery, like, oh, it's only 10 minutes away, I don't need to fast travel every little thing, maybe I can just, like, go this 3 miles, it's like...
Yeah.
But no, there's always that mix.
There's a lot of flu powder locations though, which I kind of do appreciate that, and they get more scattered as you reach that bottom, that like most south part of the castle. But I do like, and I like you just walk right by it and activates and you got it. So I think that was a good blend, like you said. Like you're gonna want to just walk because that's how you'll find the trials and side quests and stuff. Like you need to be on your broom for a lot of that. But but it is a big map. So once you run out of, or once you don't feel like it, you can, if you unlock all the fast travel points, you're good. You can get to any location you want on that map.
Hogsmeade was my number one. I needed to sell things constantly because my gear slots would run out. So I'm not flying there.
That's what I was talking about with the RPG thing. They went for it, but then that gear I hated. I mean, I don't love the number thing, like period, but I'll deal with it. And I do, I am into like getting the best gear and stuff. So like the numbers are addicting. It's like a science. I think they know people are into that stuff. But the gear, I think you can only get 40 gear slots is the max. And that was atrocious because every like 20 minutes I'd have to sell like everything or you discard it. I don't know what they were thinking with why you have such limited gear slots, especially to start the game. It's bad.
And to hinge getting more on the Merlin trials was a big mistake because a lot of the trials were contingent on you knowing spells that you had to get to a certain point of the game to learn. So then I can't do this trial. I can't get more slots because I need to go to class and learn things. But then the class sends you to places where you get gear, and then the gear I was destroying gear. Like I was destroying green.
Oh, I destroyed thousands of gold or whatever the currency is. I destroyed thousands of dollars.
Yeah. The currency. It was wasted. Because I didn't want to go all the way to Hogsmeade and then come all the way back to the cave and all the way back down and then grab that gear. I was just like, I'm going to destroy my lowest that I have and then just take this because I'm not coming back. So it's like,
no, exactly. That's exactly what I did over and over. And and that's what I'm talking about. Like that's a very modern trope, and that's not a good one. Like that's the other thing is like I get it, and I will give them that this is their first game like this. So you are going to steal from other people, which is what they did, and that's fine. But, you take, like, the worst parts of, tying everything to gear, and every chest has gear, and, like, that's the most important thing. It's not Gotham Knights. Like, Gotham Knights was very clearly a live service game until it wasn't. But Hogwarts kind of has a little of that in it, too, with the gear. Because it really does feel like the gear is too important than it actually should be. And that doesn't really worry me because I think at worst it was something they maybe planned in the beginning and then they couldn't take it all out, so the second game just wouldn't have any problems with it. So I don't feel like bad about the future. It just kind of sucks it was in this game.
Yeah, and they with Gotham Knights, I've noticed a much bigger impact that my high level gear had on my performance and damage and defense. With Hogwarts, I honestly didn't notice much except for probably the health bar because there were some times where my gear scaled up a huge amount and then I would fall off a cliff and I would take like only half my bar. And I was like, oh, I should have died because I messed up there. But what happened? I was like, oh, my gear. But yeah, my damage and my defense, I didn't really notice a whole lot there compared to Gotham Knights where I had Batgirl and oh my gosh, my gear, I just do one mission. 2 missions, and then suddenly she's one-tapping people with her batarangs, and I'm like, these are level 30 dudes, like, what
Yeah.
the hell? But yeah, I didn't notice a huge impact that the Hogwarts Legacy gear had directly on your abilities or your performance, but I mean, there's a slight benefit, I think, to having
Yeah.
legendary gear with some slots on there, I guess. But
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
use the
and
number requirement
and
much
I turned the
to mess
numbers
with it.
off when I blasted. I didn't have it on. Just like I promised, I told people going in, I'm not playing this game, which is odd because there are actually plenty of games that I do play where the numbers do pop off enemies. It just depends on the kind of game, in my opinion. And Hogwarts is not that kind of game to me. So I think that actually helped even more because I really couldn't tell at any point how much damage I was doing. So getting
Yeah,
better, worse gear didn't matter because I wasn't seeing numbers pop off the enemies, not one time. So
that sounds very cinematic. Like it sounds like a straight out of the movies. Because I mean, it's probably a good. I heard people they would turn off their mini map too. They wanted like a fully immersive
yeah,
thing.
I could
The only
never
thing
have
they
done
would use
that.
is the book compass.
Yeah,
But yeah, the mini map didn't help me. It only hurt me.
really.
I would look
It
at
got
it
it was
and
broken a couple times where it would tell you to go. I think it sometimes gets confused. I think with floors it gets a little messy. Yeah, there was a couple times that it told me to go somewhere and it would kind of then extend the length once I got there. It did some weird stuff. I think it was more glitches though. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have been able to live without it. I'm pretty reliant on maps and games. I get
I
lost
think it was
very easily.
I think it was Hogwarts. And it was a good thing for me. It was a good problem to have because I wanted the castle to be very mysterious and strange and inconsistent and
Yeah,
like magical and creepy and feel like there's a little bit of danger there.
yeah.
I wanted to find the basilisk. I wanted to be able to possibly go into the chamber. I don't care if it's sleeping. I just wanted to
Yeah,
be able to sneak into forbidden places like that. I
yeah.
wanted to be able to go up into the headmaster's study, which you do get to
You
by
can,
flying
yeah.
out from the outside. Spoiler alert. But I wanted to find creepy things and weird things in there, and the map not working was honestly just cool.
Yeah.
Out in the rest of the world, it seemed pretty straightforward. Like, oh, okay, build tree, forest, cave. But in the
Yeah.
castle, yeah, I would be like, oh, there's something on the map. I'd go up, no, it's not there. I would go down, no, it's not there. uh,
Yeah.
where am I going? But
Yeah.
yeah, to transition though, the next step of this game though, do you see a sequel happening, or do you think DLC? Like, what do you think the first thing you would expect from them? My wishful thinking is a Quidditch DLC, but I'm not very. They had an
Yeah.
in-game excuse as to why Quidditch wouldn't happen, so I'm not sure if they would just add it on or if they would just go ahead and make a sequel and have Quidditch be a
Yeah.
factor.
So, well, I talked to Troy a few times, who's the former, a lead on a couple different things in the game, and we were talking about. I think he talked me out of Quidditch for DLC because I just think we went back and forth on it. I think it's too big. I think it's too much of a thing that DLC. I mean, yeah, it's more possible than obviously it being in the base game. I could see them hold, but the issue they now have, and I've talked about this in a video. The issue they
Yeah,
have is going into the second game. They are stuck. Like they need to have Quidditch in the second game. So you either do it for DLC first, but then it's like, and I think I've said this. Then it's like, okay, so now we have to pay for Quidditch DLC, and then it'll also just be in the next game. Do we want to pay for that then? Like, why are we paying for it as DLC? Now, money, for WB, they may like force Avalanche to do it. You know what I mean? So it may not even be their choice. But I kind of just circle around that, thinking, would they really give us a $20 Quidditch expansion? Does that make sense? Do they have it in them to actually make just a full Quidditch thing? That's one part. But then it's also, well, you have to do that anyway for the sequel because you have to have Quidditch in it. So
yeah.
would they charge you a midterm kind of thing for it, and then it's just part of the second game? I think that would be not a great look for them. So I don't think there'll be Quidditch DLC. I think there probably will be DLC, like in general. I think just with open world games nowadays, the money, the time it takes to get to the sequel, I think they'll split the team. It's like 75%, 25%, and the 75 will make the second game, 25% will make the DLC. I could see, and it's probably would just be like a quest line over the summer. maybe something that would lead directly into the sequel. Oh, one final, I would like to throw this in as a prediction. It'll only be on current gen. They won't do DLC, I'll predict, for Switch, PS4, Xbox One. Which is a smart move. I don't want them to anyway. Yeah.
When's the old gen even coming out?
Now it got delayed again, so May 5th, I think.
And then June.
May 5th, and then Switch is in July, mid-July.
Oh God. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been playing it so much, it didn't even occur to me that there's still people with just PS4s and Xboxes who just like can't.
Yeah,
even
I don't think there are as many as like there are people, and I did a news video when it got delayed, and people are upset. Like people do exist that are getting it. I do not think it's. I think it'll get like a couple million on Switch, like 2 or 3 easily. PlayStation, Xbox, maybe like 2-3 million combined. The thing is, you got to remember. And this has been proven before with Horizon, Miles, and other third-party ones too. People actually aren't buying games if they're on both, they really aren't buying them on last gen. They either don't buy it at all or they wait till they get the current gen to buy. We've seen that. So I do think it'll sell a couple million because like the PS4, a lot of people, buy games on PS4. I'm sure it'll do okay. But if people think, which I think people originally did, and I think they've dropped it, if people think you're going to get like another 12 million on PS4 and Xbox One, you're nuts. Like that's not how it. We've seen it. People tend to wait. Or they already bought it on next gen. But I don't think that many people are going to wait. And on the Switch, I think will just be multiple purchase people. I don't think anybody. Well, I don't know about that. I think a very small amount of people are waiting for the Switch to play it for the first time. I think, you know what I mean? I think most of the Switch copies are people buying it the second time for the Switch.
Yeah, there are some players who got the $500, $600 OLED Switch. So they're not buying other consoles, but they're also, you don't make $1 billion in a game if there's a huge contingent of your players waiting for PS4 and Xbox One and One X and stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably a minority at this point, a very small fraction of the players that are going to be trying to get on that system. But also, I mean, you can't be beholden to old tech. So it's like if you
forcing DLC to work on the Switch, like if that's your excuse, that's a pathetic. Just drop the Switch then. You know what I mean?
Players demand the highest standards, but then they also demand, old gen. It's not going to happen. You can't have both. So they'll give you a great game, but you're going to have to get the new system that came out 3 years ago at this point. Yeah, I mean,
it's 2020. I mean, I've been on this boat. I've made some very controversial videos that people have not been happy about. 2 years ago when it was closer, and I was telling people, I think we got to start dropping PS. And I said that like before it was popular to say it. Nowadays, saying just drop, which is funny. Honestly, man, it's funny to see how it works. And I guess when you're around long enough, you see it. But my opinion 2 years ago is very similar to it now. People hated me, and I was the minority 2 years ago. Now everybody's talking about dropping last gen. And it's like, well, I was saying this when it wasn't popular to say it. And it still would have helped games. I think God of War would have benefited from just being on PS5. Horizon clearly would have, because the DLC is only on PS5. The Burning Shores one that comes out in April. So these games clearly benefit from dropping last gen. And the delay for Hogwarts on past gen shows it, that they're struggling to make it work on those platforms. It's like obvious. It's so clear.
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 extra delays because of it, and I think it's a big reason that Gotham Knights got handicapped. And
they canceled it. Yeah. Gotham Knights just dropped it off a cliff and said we can't do it, and still we got what we got on PS5 and all that stuff.
I can't believe I paid $70 for that. I pre-ordered that shit. Oh, good God. But yeah, I felt like they were just like, oh my God, we can't even make the big game, so these guys have got to go. Look at Skull and Bones. I mean, how long do you think they're going to hold on to the delusion that they're going to be able to release that on anything other? I think they also dropped off the old ones.
I think they canceled it. Yeah. I think the Need for Speed game that came out in November or December, they had canceled it. There's been Ubisoft is a big one that cancels them. Again, it would have been more controversial 2 years. I think Gotham Knights was maybe the most controversial, because it was big enough. It was early enough in this cycle where it wasn't popular to cancel. And I think so they got hit probably the hardest of Like Need for Speed, nobody cared. Skull and Bones, nobody cares. Period.
It took
But
me
they
15
definitely don't
years
care
to
about
see that game.
Yeah. So it's odd the year, the kind of era that we're in now. But I think if you canceled Hogwarts Legacy you can't do it now, but if you canceled Hogwarts on the PS4 and Xbox One like 2-3 months ago, it would have been loud for like a week, and then I really don't think it would have mattered all that, which is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, they're readily available now. It's at the point where I can walk in my local Walmart
Finally.
and see a bundle of PS5s, and I'm just like, yeah, it's all
I
there.
can at least
We're
see
okay
Series
now.
X's. I still don't think I've seen a PS5 in the wild, but I have them, so it's whatever.
Yeah, that's
You can
crazy.
get, I think on Amazon you can literally go and buy it like anytime you want now. I haven't seen it in like a Walmart, but I've seen an Xbox Series X in a Walmart. Yeah, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
There's none anymore.
I remember the craze. I honestly was just watching for morbid curiosity because I wasn't desperate to get one when they first dropped.
Yeah.
I was just kind of seeing where everything went, and then oh my gosh, I would follow. I think Matt Swider. He was one of the trailblazers of trying to like get people the links as soon as they were ready. So he would drop the Target, the Amazon, whatever it was, and he had a whole mailing list. It's still big now. I'm still on it because everybody was just desperately trying to get one. He was one of the only ones like really
I got it
scouring the
from
entire
Jeff Keighley. My guy was Jeff. Good old Jeff
Crazy.
Keighley was my. He dropped the Amazon link, and I went to Amazon to buy the PS5. I was gonna buy the PS5 digital, so he dropped the link on Twitter, added it to the cart, hit buy, and it sold out. So I was like, oh my God, no. And it was at night. This was like 10 o'clock at night. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm doing the disc. So an extra 100. But, and then it worked. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. And I got it day one. But thank you. Jeff Keighley does more than just run the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest.
No, it was insane. It was like it was like the Elmo thing from 2004, whenever that was. The Black Friday Elmo rush with people beating each other up. But with COVID, it was crazy because it was all online. It was an online Black Friday every single day at any random hour of the day. You would see a drop of 50, and they would all go, and then everybody was mad because they only had 50. And then the people who got them would wait for them to ship and everything, and so it's not like you even had it.
It would take like a month. Like people would get on Walmart, and it would take like a month to come. So they would get it, but they wouldn't really get. Yeah, only the Wii. The Wii is. I think the Wii was still worse. But the Wii was also in person, so you had that nostalgia of people going to the store. I remember when I got the Wii, we were the second to last person in line that they had enough for. So there was more people behind the person behind us, and I remember that as like a kid. So yeah, it's this was the modern version of the Wii, and only online. So Wii, you could go to the stores and get told that they didn't have it. In this, it was you go on Amazon, it's just never available.
Yeah, it was crazy because not only did the marketplace change so much from 2006 when the Wii came out to now, but also it was just lockdowns everywhere. So then everybody was just stuck doing it anyway. I think I got my Series X because it was a bundle. 2021 around like April-ish. I was like, fine, I want a new console, right? So then I go in and I get a bundle from GameStop, and it has like headphones. It's got Madden 21, two controllers and stuff. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll get the bundle because the regular one kept selling out, and nobody wanted the bundle. So I was like, I'll take it. Give me the bundle.
Yeah.
And then I got it all, and now I have extra controllers. I had a fun game for a while until I saw the bugs in Madden. But no, it was insane. Just like. And the decision that I made to get the bundle was just, am I going to pay another $100 on top of it just to get this and some cool stuff, or am I going to wait another year until these things are in stock normally and I can just go pick one up? But it was I chose the bundle. I got to play some games. I got Game Pass for a while. It was cool. It was fun. But with Hogwarts though, I mean specifically, I think I would think a beta. For maybe even if it's just deluxe, maybe not, that might piss people off, but maybe a beta for Quidditch. So if they kind of work on it, they tinker with it, they have something they like, they think a system that's going to work. Maybe they shoot it out to some Wizarding World, maybe players who link their Wizarding World account. I don't care. However they decide. Give some of the players a beta to like test it out, or maybe even just the influencers, and show them what they're doing, show them how they're working on it.
Yeah.
Even if they decide to include it only in the second game, they don't want to waste money and time on a DLC, like you said. I would think maybe beta would be a good compromise because
Yeah.
people would be able to, tinker with it, see if it works, see that they're actually doing it. They they believe them.
Yeah.
And then in the next game, they'll have the fully fleshed out version for you. And then however they decide to put it, if it's at Hogwarts again, if it's a continuation, if it's a whole new story, if it's a different time period, either way though, whatever they decide to do, they could have Quidditch in there based on beta feedback that they got from real players. I think that might be an okay compromise.
Yeah, no, I like that idea a lot. And even you lead into the second game, you give beta access. You could do it like early, or you could do it a few months before, like say the second game. Anytime you give players and you feel confident about your game, and you're giving players that access a couple months ahead, I think is a good thing. So, yeah, I really, like I said, even if you don't do a Hogwarts Legacy 2, I don't know, to not have Quidditch in the Wizarding world, doesn't matter if it's Hogwarts or not, I think the next game has to have it. Like, it just has to. So, again, they are in a tough spot because here's the thing. I mean, we said it in the beginning, like, I do want them to, they have a lot of improvements they need to make. This was a really great first try, and for their first game, they did spectacular. Okay?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work. There's a lot they missed. They missed on. They just missed in general. They didn't do. So you have to do all that to satisfy me. You have to actually do companions. Make it matter, the choices, or don't take the choices away from us. Add spells. New story. Obviously you have to expand the map if it's Hogwarts again. Like all this stuff. Now you do all that, so you have to make the game a second time, but now make Quidditch. So I do understand, like, it's asking a lot, but it's what they've done. And at the same time, I don't really feel sorry for them because they're swimming in like $1 billion right now. So hire an extra 100 people. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, Warner Bros. Needs to give them as big of a budget as they ask for. If they say, well, we need 70 more people, which is millions of dollars, right? We need 70 more people. You let them do it. Because I don't think this team, as it stands, can do it. I think you need to add to the team. You keep this team as the foundation, but you need to add to it. So they need to hire more people, which means an increased budget, all that jazz. They need to be given that. And I can't imagine they're not given it. Because when you make this amount of money, you expand the budget, you give them what they want, and then and they have negotiating rights too, which I kind of found out from behind it. Like they'll, the heads of the team, you can negotiate prices. You can negotiate what you want in the next game versus what Warner Bros. Wants in the next game. That stuff happens, across the industry. But specifically here, they'll have a pretty good amount of negotiation. Because they'll go in and say, look what we did. Look what we did with very little, too, by the way. You know what I mean? So now give us the money and we'll give you something big. And so, I think it's a positive future for sure.
And I've always wondered about the future of gaming itself because I don't like the idea also of just like the sequels, kind of like the Hollywood sequels where it's a whole new disc, a whole new game every time. I'm thinking that what they're creating now with all these open worlds, it just lends itself to gives them the ability to just import new stories into their previously built game. The entire sequel could be same general system, same world, but the DLC is just massive. So they sell you a $70, $60, $50 DLC that is a whole new story or a whole bunch of new stories, like, sprinkled in, kind of like.
Well, to be honest, that is kind of like God of War Ragnarok is very much a part 2. Like it's tough. There's a lot of controversy, right? When people said like is a clone of, or is it just more God of War 2018? It's a controversial topic. I do agree. It looks almost identical. There's a lot of like the shimmying, right, for like the loading stuff. I mean, there's issues there, but also it is very much the same game, which is fine. But here's the issue, and here's what I would say to you: not that your idea is bad or anything. When game development takes so long that by the time you get, even if it's a glorified DLC, you're still looking at 3 to 5 years. So it basically is another game you know what I mean? It's I think you could have done that back in like 2006, 7. Games back then, like Budokai Tenkaichi 4 was announced, and I looked back and I was like, I want to see the years. Those games, I believe they came out back to back to back years, 3 years in a row, 3 Dragon Ball Z games, each one much bigger than the last. So like, it's nuts how game development is now, even to do a DLC period for Hogwarts will take like a year, which is nuts because you could have done that in like 3 months, like 10 years ago, but now it's a year. So, that's why live service, I guess, is more popular or more of a thing people do now because, you build the game. But I don't think Hogwarts is built as a live service. I don't think you can keep, controversially maybe, I don't think you can keep that world and just keep adding quests to it. I think eventually, you probably could to start. I think eventually you have to give a second game. It's not DC Universe Online or stuff like that.
Yeah, I've always liked the idea. I wish it was more. Yeah, but I guess the innovation that could happen while they're developing a new part of the game would just be like to the point where what if it breaks the main game?
Yeah.
So I guess it's a Jenga tower at that point then.
Right.
I would love to have like just a sandbox, right? So put a Batman sandbox down, and then over time you just add more things to it. But I mean, I could see the problem where the walls of the sandbox will just break, the sand will start spilling out. They're like, we might as well just make a whole new game, new disc, start from scratch, even if it's the same castle. We need different, I guess that's what would happen.
Yeah, it's a blend. I don't think Hogwarts is like the worst starting point for something like that because you have all the spells, you just keep adding spells. You have enemy types, you keep adding enemy types. You'd have to like expand the world. But maybe, and like the quests, you can just keep adding quests. It's definitely not a bad, like if you told me it was a live service game where you just keep adding to it, I don't think it would like break it. But I think eventually you'd have to, move on and expand it. Plus, like, you don't know. That's the thing with these games or just modern games. They could add something that would break it, so you can't add it. So you'd have to maybe make a new one and fix it there. Like maybe Quidditch doesn't work, And I honestly, the way flying is, I don't know if Quidditch would work. So I do think you'd maybe have to overhaul the flying stuff.
They might have to tweak it, and then that would break the whole.
Right, so you wouldn't be able to add it into the existing thing. So stuff like that. It's tough. Game development is, it's not like it's a hard job for sure. I think some people have it a lot easier in the gaming industry than others, and they also think their lives are more important than others. But it is a difficult job, like for sure.
Oh yeah, and then I would think that if you look at Red Dead Redemption 2, I mean that's the kind of game where Rocksteady doesn't even want to follow up on it. They can look at that and say that's our masterpiece. And if we were to make a sequel using the same base, of course, again, now that we're looking at it from a few years after, it would break the game because now you have PS5 and Xbox Series X. That's an old gen game, but in general, though, story wise and mechanic wise, if you try to just like build on top of Red Dead 2 or make a sequel to it, it's never going to live up. I don't think it will because they made such a masterpiece with that game, and the way that you're able to just hold a button and make it cinematic, that's just.
Wait till GTA 6. I think GTA 6 will push. Rockstar are masters of pushing what an open world game is or what a livable world is. I think GTA with like a city with people doing things, like it will be revolutionary, much like Red Dead 2 was and GTA 5 even, or 4 at the time was such a big deal as well. I think by the time you get to a Red Dead 3 in like 8 years, I think there'll be enough that's changed that the story's so good though, and Arthur's so good, so it'll be tough to match that. But I think the open world kind of stuff, they're just, I don't know, they're pros. And again, like for Hogwarts, these are things that I think you try to steal from. They're Hogwarts are innovators and leaders when it comes to respecting the fans, lore, like accuracy, right, like attention to detail. They're leaders. Everything, or combat, I'd even say they're leaders. Everything else, they're followers. Like all the systems, they're followers, which is okay. I'd like to see them become leaders, and I'd also like them to steal from the previous leaders. So steal from BioWare, from the Mass Effect games. Steal from
yourself. Like, look what Lord of the Rings did. The Warner Brothers games had the Mordor games, and you had the Nemesis system.
Yeah,
You
but
could
the Nemesis system is locked because of the patent. So I think only Monolith is allowed to use. That's
there's
why.
always something.
Which is
There's
such a
always something.
stupid. And Warner Bros. Did that themselves. They did that. They said only. So that was one of the dumbest moves because the Nemesis system. Why wouldn't you license it out? Why wouldn't you charge people to use it?
Money waiting
because that's so much. Do you know how much money you would get? Because so many companies would take it. Like, imagine the Nemesis system in like any game. You could probably make it work in any game. So I don't know why they decided. I guess I can see it. They're protecting themselves, but they just lost hundreds of millions of dollars, with one which is not unlike WB to make, the most dumb decisions possible. You and me know that well.
Yeah, look at the PlayStation. They're open to licensing out their haptic feedback stuff. Like they're open to showing, companies how they made their PS5 and everything, like with their controller, like
and the Decima engine, right, which is the one Horizon, but then they let Hideo Kojima take it. So they'll pass around their engine, at least internally. I don't think they let other people do it, but like if you're in the PlayStation family, you can use the Decima engine. For Warner Bros, if you're not Monolith, you can't use the Nemesis system.
That's crazy. Like, their own company, their own games. They're like, oh shit, we give that to Monolith. Yeah. Oh, whoops. Sorry guys, Avalanche. You make up your own thing, but it can't be close to ours.
Yeah,
All right, what's our budget again? Oh my god, yeah, that would because that's kind of something that was missing. Because you could add a Cadaver, a kid in your classroom, and then you'd get a slight slap on the wrist from your professor, like, I don't expect to see you ever do that spell in here again. Just take that outside. Okay, I'll kill the students outside. Now we're good. My hands are clean. It's like it was very there. Like you said earlier, there wasn't a whole lot of like consequence for being a complete asshole or a dark wizard or anything.
Things
using forbidden curses,
and it's more of like what didn't change. Like the issue is that stuff wouldn't really have impacted it, except for they sometimes pretend like it does. Like my wife's a good example. Like when you do the Sebastian quest, you can be as much of on his side as you want or not on his side, but like everything's the same. So it's that fooling that you think you're changing it. And she saw me play it, and I would side with him on purpose. Yeah. And then she played it, and she would say, I'm not on board. And what you say is different in the one line, and then immediately, it's such a jar. I said this on the live stream, I think, last week. It's such a jarring thing that's so obvious, I think, specifically with Sebastian, that I noticed, because you can say one thing to him, or my wife will say another thing, and the first line will be different. And then immediately you can tell the engine switches back into the default, what they're supposed to say to each other. And it's so off, like it doesn't seem right. And it's very obvious with Sebastian that that's how it works. So, again, take that away from us then. If you don't want it, if you don't want that, then take it away. I'm okay with playing, I've pitched the idea of like a Telltale Hogwarts or Harry Potter game would actually have a lot of choices and stuff, but if you wanted to tell me a linear Uncharted, if you wanted to tell me a linear story where I don't get to choose anything, that's fine. I trust you. Do it. You know what I mean? So they just have to pick.
Just don't waste all that time and money on all those options that lead.
That's voice. That's voice lines. That's right. I mean, you imagine that took a lot of time and a lot of resources. So just choose. I mean, that's all I'm at. Really, that's all I'm asking for the next game. Either go all in. Go BioWare, go, all these kind of games, or actually pull back, which it sounds so weird to say that, but pull back. Don't give us the options anymore, and you lose that. It's your legacy thing, but at the same time, it wasn't. It's not. You get to pick one thing in the whole game. Yeah.
If you look at a game like Divinity 2, your choices are ridiculously important. Right now, I'm almost done with it, but I'm stuck on the stupid bovine empathy emulator death room. I hate it. I hate those little gnome things.
Yeah.
You can't sneak, you can't do anything, but I'll figure it out at some point. But I hate them because they flip a switch. You're a cow for 4. Everybody's a cow for 4 turns, and they're not cows. I hate it so much. But every single choice, every single thing you say is important. Every
Yeah.
single persuasion check is super important. And then you look at something like Bioshock 3, which was, I think, one of the most genius games ever made, because for all the criticisms of it not being enough like Bioshock 1,
Yeah.
well, 1, 2, 1 and 3, I think both, were just unbelievably genius, because they showed you how little choice you have in these games, and they showed you how it's on purpose, but they
Yeah.
like to mess with you for it. And the two strange, I don't know what to call them, intradimensional figures, the man and the woman,
Yes.
in the third one, they're literally just, the devs laughing at you throughout the game and kind of showing you like
Oh yeah,
how
yeah.
fake all of your choices are. And they also
Yeah.
try to tie it into some sort of like philosophical and societal criticism as well, and I think a religious criticism too. And it was all
Yeah.
wrapped into one
It-
ball of like
yeah.
this game where you're trying to chase this girl and keep her safe. And I'm like, it's just so, it was a mind.
I love Infinite. Bioshock. That's actually my personal. Oh man, I go back and forth because one is so good. I go back and forth. I think Infinite, a lot of times, is my personal favorite Bioshock game, and it does get a lot of garbage. A lot of people don't like it. I love it.
blew
I
my
think that
mind.
game's
It was
phenomenal.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And when you open up by going down that elevator into the strange baptism, ridiculously cool. Like then the music was just so, you know,
Well, I remember
alluring and
beating it,
soothing.
and then I tried to hang on with the story. I think 3 is kind of hard to follow the first time you play it. So I beat it, and immediately I read. I think maybe IGN. That's how old that game is when IGN was actually good. IGN, I think there was like a 6-page explanation. I think it was IGN that explained the story. And I remember beating it with the baptism, and then it ended, and I was like, "What?" And then I immediately just read, like, "Okay, what's Ken Levine trying to tell me here?" And then you kind of figure it all out. No, I love it. I love it because it's that deep. I think it's the deepest of the 3 games.
Yeah, it was just, and her rift, I think, was the biggest thing that confused everybody, because she was able to
Yeah.
make all these timelines, and it was so hard to keep track of which one you're in and what was
Yeah.
happening. But it was main story, so it's not like you chose to jump in another timeline. It was the main
Right.
story to go through all these timelines, and it was so weird, but it was so good. But yeah, it was just completely insane.
I gotta replay it. I played all 3 of them 3 years ago in like January 2020, right before you know what. I
Yeah.
played all 3, so I gotta do it again.
Yeah, the lockdowns pretty much got me through the whole trilogy, and it was so good. But yeah, games like that. I mean, the whole choice thing. I would love to see more of a Nemesis type system, but I guess they can't even do it. But
Yeah.
I would love to see them ask permission to do a enemy recognition system that has nothing to do with Nemesis.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, I think
it would be a
you
big
should
change,
still be
I
able to
think.
do it. Companies, without the Nemesis system is tough, but just make your own. You got to be able to innovate. You should be
Yeah.
able to do it better. There should be companies that can do it better than the Nemesis system. So, yeah, hopefully it doesn't. Well, it has deterred anybody from trying it, as clearly it looks like, but it shouldn't have. People should try.
So much proprietary shit with games these days.
Yeah.
Like, you have the console exclusives. I'm like, look at Legacy. It's $1 billion.
Yeah.
A Spider-Man did not make $1 billion in a month, and like that was
And-
heralded as like the biggest game in
Yeah.
decades.
It worked though, the thing for Sony, because you see PlayStation, coincidentally, and it's not coincidentally, PlayStation sales, PS5 sales are bigger than literally in Japan, in the UK, in the US. They're like 450% higher than like a month and a half ago. And it's not the stock.
Yeah.
I think it is. I mean, the stock definitely helps, but it's Hogwarts. People are buying the PS5 and buying Hogwarts. So it definitely, that exclusive marketing thing that Sony had, that was a very smart move.
Yeah, I mean their problem is that if they don't sell out, then they're losing money, because they said they make pretty much nothing on
Yeah.
the next gen consoles. Both companies, the games are what's giving them the profits, and subscriptions
Right.
to like Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. That's where the
Right.
money's really coming from. But they will need as many people to have the console as possible.
Yeah.
For that to happen. But like, yeah, if you're going off pure console sales for them without bundles, it's just like they're not even making money on the $500, which is insane. It's crazy that $500 you don't even.
But
get
then
a dollar
and like you said, you get a PlayStation Plus subscription
Yeah.
out of that. They'll buy Ratchet and Clank. They'll buy Spider-Man 2. Like Spider-Man 2 is the culmination of all this stuff. It's like, okay, everybody's got their PS5 now. Let's give you a game that we expect to sell like 15, 20 million on the PS5. And that's billions of dollars to Sony and Insomniac. So, yeah, that I think is where or God of War. God of War sold incredibly well. So, that's how Sony does it nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wish that other people could play like Horizon and things like that. But I mean, it's their model. It's what they're going for. So I mean,
yeah,
more power and luck to them. But like, I just wish that everybody could play every game almost. And it's just it's strange to see.
It's a push pull of what they think. Because they believe that by having it only on PlayStation, it incentivizes you to stay in the. You know what I mean? You could make more money if you put it on other consoles. But are you driving people away from PlayStation? They don't have that data. I'm sure they have something they can look to, but they don't. They've never done it, so they don't truly. Well, actually, that's not true. MLB The Show is actually on Xbox, and it's a Game Pass game. So maybe they look to MLB as something. But they've never done it for like put a God of War game on Xbox and see what. But like they would never want to take that. Like you'd get a lot of interesting data from that, right? You'd be able to figure the future out. But they'll never do it, to try it out to see what it's like. I think Xbox will. I think eventually a game like, there's been long rumors Halo, they want Halo to be on PlayStation. So I think Xbox is very willing to do it eventually.
Spencer was tweeting a year or two ago. Phil Spencer was alleging that he was offering to get it on PS Plus.
Yep.
But that Sony was kind of declining.
Yeah.
Or there wasn't an agreement at the table that he could work with. But they're also at the same time, it's just all the hypocrisy because you have the PlayStation people saying that they want, they're buying up all these independent companies, they're buying up Insomniac, all these smaller guys, making them bigger. And then they're getting mad though when Microsoft floats the idea of buying like Call of Duty and making it strictly Xbox. So all the Call of Duty players that now exist for other consoles are gone.
Right.
It's like that would be a huge and crazy, and it would cause a huge stir. The FTC would probably come in to break up a monopoly. But if you had, but then you have PlayStation coming up and buying up all these smaller ones, putting them all together, and it's like they're
you got to stay under the radar basically. Yeah. Sony buys small and then they make them big.
Yes.
Sony does third-party exclusives. Xbox does too, though. And then it's because they went after a big fish, like you said, like you can't tell somebody 10 years ago that somebody was going to buy Call of Duty, and you'd say it'd be impossible to even imagine that. So I can see
Microsoft wants to, and that's crazy.
And they're going to. So it'd be the same thing. There's like the rumor that Sony would buy like a Take-Two, which I don't even think they can afford that. But say they did. Yeah. That would also be something you have to look at because that would mean they're buying GTA and Red Dead. Like, again, tell people 10 years ago there's interest in that. It's insane. Even Square Enix, if Sony buy, which I think could eventually happen, if Sony buys Square, imagine telling people that. Like, those are insane things. So they are going to get looked at and scrutinized, but they should. I think you should look at it to make sure. But, hey, these rules are ambiguous and government sometimes cares. They sometimes like the U.S. government doesn't care about a lot of things, but they seem to care that Microsoft is buying, Activision. So I don't get that necessarily. But
it's kind of funny. But Microsoft is huge, though. I mean, but of course they're more worried about Microsoft having or Disney or whatever having a lot of power or Comcast buying up too many companies or whatever. They don't seem to be too worried about Lockheed Martin. Getting specific government contracts to send weapons
Why would
the world. They're not too worried about those big guys. They're not too worried about Wall Street. But entertainment, you watch your ass because we will come after you. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how much of a tribal herd you have, where you have like too many companies with their own stuff. I mean, I understand Nintendo; they're kind of like their own thing already. They make their own games kind of in their own little world. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have like Xbox Mario games or Xbox Zelda.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Although for a long time it seemed like Nintendo, like for the Wii U era, Nintendo was not doing good. There was talk, like it was possible. I think you would see them just become a publisher of game, or
Yeah.
just games. I don't think it'll happen now because I think they figured out portable like a Switch. That's what works. And as long as they do that, Nintendo will always be in their own way better than Microsoft. I mean, like I joke about it. I do like PlayStation, Xbox. I think the systems more than the Switch. But I jokingly say all the time that Nintendo is the best one of the three, like easily, because the Switch quietly is just better and it sells more than PS5 ever could,
It's crazy,
PS4
yeah.
ever could. The Switch just quietly dominates, where these two are fighting constantly, Microsoft and Sony, and Nintendo's just over there beating both of them without them even like paying attention.
And
It's
Nintendo
nuts.
also is able to get some of those games that it doesn't create in, so it has Assassin's Creed on Switch. You can
Yep.
play Black Flag on Switch. You can't
Yep.
play their games necessarily on other consoles, but also
Right.
they've been the warriors and the trailblazers of handheld. The PSP, so named because they didn't want to call it the PPS, like terrible name. The portable PlayStation Portable, it was it was alright, but it wasn't the best ever. It wasn't very good. It didn't last. I've never seen Xbox or Microsoft have a good handheld system. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've never seen one.
No.
But then you have
The
DS,
Vita was the
Game
chance
Boy.
for PlayStation, and they squandered it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
so,
the Vita. I loved it.
Nintendo has all these great handheld options, and the Switch is now the best of both worlds. You can have it as your main $500 console, and then you can carry it around like a beautiful OLED Nintendo DS,
Yeah.
or 3DS. It's nuts.
The only thing wrong with it now is it's too old. Like you gotta give us the Switch 2 at this point. But once you do that, they're set for another 6 years. But right now, it's interesting because you see all the people complaining, which is there are like Xenoblade. They clearly know what they're doing. Metroid Prime remastered. There's some games that seemingly push what the Switch can do to new heights. And then you got like Pokemon, who they just don't care, and that game looks like it's 50 years old. But the Switch is definitely at the end of its life cycle, and games are suffering going on the Switch because it can't handle it. So we do need a Switch too. But Nintendo will do it, and it'll quietly beat both the PS5 and Series X, like without question. So it's fun to kind of throw that,
Kids.
yeah. It's not even, like I say it non-ironically or whatever the phrase, like it's interesting because like it's not my primary console by a mile, the Switch. Like I rarely play it, but it's just funny to kind of always bring it up in the conversation that it's like it just does so well. Games that are on the Switch exclusive do like 20 to 40 million copies. Do people like that? Is insane. Hogwarts will struggle to get that, and Switch just does it naturally with Mario and like Tears of the Kingdom. We'll get like 25 million easily in the first couple months.
That is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. That game's going to be nuts. And I can see that throughout the entire battle that's been going on, it's like obviously the media is focusing on the bigger companies. Or the more prominent ones are the ones that pay for the most PR. I don't see Nintendo trying to fight them at all. I just see them kind of like sitting around in their own world, like you're saying. And then if we clipped half of the things you say as a prediction, you would be people would call you like a insider conspiracy theorist of sorts, because they'd be like, "Damn, he always seems to know things before they happen." Like you were talking about earlier with the older generation. I'm like, that's
I'm very proud. I'm honestly very, because I have videos. I mean, you can go back and look 2+ like. When the PS5 came out that spring, so 2021, I made at least 3 videos across both channels on Horizon, God of War, the Yuffie DLC for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Those are 3 videos, all of them still more likes than dislikes, but a lot of dislikes, people telling me I don't care about the people that have PS4 era games and stuff. But now it seems like I'm a prophet because I'm literally saying the same thing, and just everybody else is caught up. So I do. It is patting myself on the back because it doesn't always happen. I get things wrong a lot, but I feel really good about my stance on that because I've been consistent and I was right for a long time.
I was one of the likes on the videos. I agreed with them at the time, and
it
was stating the obvious fact. I mean, because time is the best medicine for a lot of people, but there's also just a lot of people that, the layman like me, we don't know much about games like, in depth, or what goes on behind them, or what goes into making them. It seems like I think you know a little bit more about the just the structure and the I guess the just the economy of the industry in a way, because like you can kind of see like, oh, crash. You know, you're one of the people saying that the market's going to crash in 2008. Boom, it happens. But like, but it's in a way where you can just look at it realistically and say, oh, well, you know, I'm not thinking about the money or how the lockdowns are hurting people or any of that. I'm just looking at the reality of this game, pretending that none of that ever happened. If this was just a regular old 2020, it's the same truth, and a lot of people would have agreed with you without even throwing a fit, because they wouldn't have been locked down, they wouldn't have been hard for cash, and they wouldn't have been saying, "Damn, I'm going to have to wait a year or two to get this system that he says should be the norm now." And I'm like, if that hadn't happened, you still would have been right. But because it happened, it doesn't change the fact that you're right. Like it's, the right is right no matter what. It's just the fact that,
and I think it's hurt the industry. I think it's slowed games down, as we've seen. I think, you know, you just see it. And we've heard developers say, even the Series S developers don't like. Like we've seen, you know, there's that controversial where people are like, well, are you really a developer? I think there's probably some fakes, but there's been some legitimate developers that have said, you know, the Series S slows them down because it's not, and we knew that actually when the Series S was announced. It's not the same as the X. It's weaker in some areas. And you could just tell based on the specs, oh, that's going to slow down games. They're going to struggle to get it to work. It's not like PS5 and Series X. You can swap games pretty easily. But when you add the S, you're almost making another version. And you could tell at that time. So imagine doing that and then doing the PS4 and Xbox One after that. Imagine making, I don't even know how they did Horizon. Because Horizon Forbidden West is probably the most like next-gen game, I think, that's out there. Like on both systems. So how they did that on PS5 and PS4, got no clue. But it's clear they don't want to do it again because, the DLC is only on PS5. So they're like, we're done. We're not going back. We're going forward.
I think it costs them too much, too, you know, because you make it two different games, essentially, for the same game. And you have to dumb it down. You have to dumb one of the games down. And it's just kind of like, it makes your work look bad, too. Like, you work so hard to make this look amazing, and then you have to dumb it down for an old system. It's like, people are going to judge you based on the PS4 version of the game. And you're like, well, that's not fair. I mean, there's a better version right there. You can just get the new system if you're able and play that. It's just, you know, it hurts their work as well. And it can even hurt, like, reviews. Not that those matter, and what with Kotaku and everything going insane in the gaming industry, but still, there are some major AAA games that get multimedia attention, not just the gaming media attention. It's just like, it hurts their work too, and it hurts their resume and their portfolio when they're applying for other jobs in the industry. It's like, I worked on this great game. Don't look at the other version of it, please. I was bullied into making that one. I think it's finally, thank God, time to move on from the old one and just kind of give them a little, you know, give them a pat on the head. They were amazing. Thanks for the 7-8 years that you gave us, but your time is done. Consoles, they age out in a way that a lot of other entertainment media technologies just don't, and it's just not something that they're trying to do.
It's 10 years of the PS4. Like, it's time. Amazing. It's long past time to move off that thing. Again, there's teams that can push it. Like Naughty Dog, say what you want about Part 2, and I definitely have stuff to say as well. They, in terms of what the boundaries of the visuals and the performance, they pushed again, and they did it for The Last of Us 1 on PS3. They just know how to dig deep into the console and make it give them more power than anybody else, honestly, for the most part. Rockstar, I think, for open world games, but there's some very talented teams, and same thing with Nintendo, right? Like Xenoblade Chronicles, an open world game. There's no reason Pokemon should look so bad and run so bad when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is fine, perfectly fine. It's just that team knows how to do it better. The system doesn't help, and not every team is equal. That's the thing, everybody wants to believe, right? And we are all equal in terms of, like your respect level towards each person, or treating them as equals. But not everybody's got the same talent. Not every gaming team that makes a game out there is as talented as the next. And that's still maybe a controversial thing because, you're saying somebody's better than somebody else, but it is the truth,
Yeah, it's pretty self-evident. I mean, some people are better at basketball, some people are better at making games. And
But
it's just,
we're in
yeah,
the gaming industry where everybody's got to be, and you can't say anything negative, and
yeah,
nothing can be wrong with the game. So it's tough to call that stuff out in the gaming industry, even though Naughty Dog turns away people that are really good because they want better than that.
yeah. They
Like
want the best of the best.
they
And
want
that's
literally the best of the best, and that's how you make good games. That's why I want
that's how you,
Avalanche.
yeah,
That's why I want Avalanche poach people, take from these good teams. Why not? Like Hogwarts Legacy was made from veterans, but also a lot of first timers. So Hogwarts Legacy 2, get some veterans, get some people that know it, have been around a while. Horizon did that. Horizon, or the multiplayer game for Horizon that's going to come out, they took people that have done these things in the past. Like, you just
yeah,
got to hire the right people.
yeah. And you can also try and like train people as well. So if you
Oh
have
yeah,
a shortage, if you have an issue with that, I mean, you can always like ask these teams what they did, and then try to have your team copy it. Like
right.
you
Yeah,
can always reach out to somebody. I'm sure that these people are not like hiding their alchemy secrets. I'm sure that they would be more than happy to like help someone learn if they're like pretty good but not super great. Like I'm sure they would be
yeah,
willing to help people out. Or if you call up a team and say, hey, I'm trying to make something, big open world game. We're having this problem. Can you help us? But I know there's a lot of strange structural
yeah. You got to
issues
go
there. There's a
through
lot of
people and all that
relationships you don't
stuff.
want to step on, and like
Yeah,
there's a lot of contracts you don't want to burn. So
yeah.
it's like
It's easiest to
but
do it in the family. So any WB team, like they can go to Monolith and ask for help. They
yeah,
can't take the Nemesis system, but they can pick their brains. How do you
like
do? And honestly, they're the best ones at this point. If you're Avalanche and you're looking for the second game, I would never approach WB Montreal. I really honestly wouldn't approach Rocksteady either. I would go straight to Monolith and say, if Wonder Woman's good, and say, hey, what are you up to? Like, can you help with this issue? Monolith is the team. Because other than that, like NetherRealm, why would you ask NetherRealm? They're a fighting studio. They can't help you.
yeah,
TT Games, Traveler's Tale with the Lego games, they can't help you. Warner Bros. Doesn't have that many studios. So if you're
that's
looking for
why
internal help, you kind of have to go. You saw, actually, if you watch the end credits of Hogwarts, a lot of WB Montreal helped. There's a lot of people, if you look at the end credits, there's a lot from WB Montreal that were on the team. I
which is
think Monolith, too.
counterintuitive
Yeah.
because Montreal was responsible, if I'm not mistaken, for were they Origins? Arkham
Origins, Gotham Knights. So they're
Yeah,
and they're also a support team. They help with
yeah.
other
Rocksteady
WB
did
projects.
a lot of help for them on Origins.
Yeah.
And even that didn't save the game. But like Origins was all right, but it definitely had some eternal bugs that just will never be fixed. But yeah, the gaming industry like that fascinates me. All the different aspects of how things can come together or fall apart, and
Yeah.
the way that the relationship is basically between the consumer and the team that makes it. It's really interesting because you're like actually kind of living something that they've been living, trying to build for months or years of their life, and it's
I don't
very
know how they do.
rewarding.
I was trying to get Troy's opinion on that. Because like I just will never know, right, until you like work in the industry, which I don't think I'd ever do. Imagine working on a game imagine working on anything for like 4 years. What's the day to day? When you go into work on your Monday, what do you do? And then when you leave to going back on Tuesday, like, are you working on like a patch of grass for that one day? You know what I mean? Or depending on your job, you're doing something different. Are you, like writers, I can imagine how writers work. I've seen enough of the capturing acting kind of stuff, very film-like. But the design team, the lighting team, like, are they working on one little area for weeks? Like, how does it, and how do you not go nuts? In your head doing, like, I could never. I probably have some sort of mental issue already, but I really don't think I could focus on just one small thing for a couple weeks, then do another small thing for a couple weeks, have meetings, bounce things off of other departments. I could never. I make 30 videos a week. I always want to move on to something else, whereas you can't. In the gaming industry, you can't do that. So I get,
algorithms
again,
kill
it's
them.
a complicated, hard job. Some of them think their job's harder than it really is, But for the most part, it is a very grueling job that they deserve a lot of credit. I just kind of draw the line when you have to give them credit no matter what. Again, that whole like everybody gets the award, everybody gets a trophy kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm not part of that, right? So I get it's hard, and I get that if you do all that to make a bad game at the end, I can see where they're coming from, where it's like, well, we worked so hard on it. You're being mean to us. We don't really appreciate that. But it's a business. But you got into it. It's a business. You're supposed to make a good product that we buy. So that's all part of it. You're not making a game to give it out for free where it doesn't matter if it's good or bad or whatever.
Yeah.
You're charging. You need the money. We're giving you the money. It needs to have you're in an industry, so you're competing with other games. It needs to have a certain bar,
Yeah, and then the whole backlash there. I mean, it transitions into the next part too pretty easily because this game, Hogwarts Legacy, had nothing. The reason the title of this is going to be a legacy in review is because there is someone's legacy who is in review all of a sudden recently, and she didn't even have anything to do with the game. So like the huge backlash against J.K. Rowling for this game specifically has been very strange, and it's made no sense to me because she didn't even directly get involved with the game. She was just I don't even think she was consulted. Because they had all the data they wanted. They had her books. They had some visual guides. They had like artist renderings. They had the films to kind of reference a little bit, and they did steal some of the things from the films for the look of Hogwarts and stuff.
Yeah,
and the outfits.
And they had her lawyers. That's all they. So and consultants. The lead writer I think went through a consultant. I don't think the lead writer ever talked to her. Is what I kind of understand. I could be wrong. But from what I understand, even the writer, which is what everybody talks about, right? Like the story or all this stuff like, oh, you stole, what did you get from her or did she help you? I think somebody was in between them. Writer talks to person goes to JK, comes back. It's that person. It's not even JK Rowling. So, all this for a person that truly had nothing to do, with the game at all.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the day where the kind of people who would go out and, besides the extreme ones, like obviously calling for her death and violent threats and all that, but the ones who just criticize her based on, some tweets that I've read multiple times to try and find out if they're actually what they say they are. I haven't really found what they're looking for or what they say is there, but when she doesn't even get directly involved in something, I just can't wait for the day where they make something. If they ever do. The kinds of people who would spend all day trashing an author probably aren't going to ever make something is worth, public consumption. But say they write a book. Say they make a movie or release a podcast or anything. Do anything with it, like, at all. And then they do one little thing or say one little thing that is maybe even is perfectly innocuous, but just people perceive a certain way and decided that's what it is, and then decide that you're just a bigot completely.
Yeah.
Like your whole life is just nothing but bigotry. So then you're sitting there like, that's your own medicine. At that point, I want to see how they would react to putting out anything and then seeing everyone just endlessly trash them until long after the grave has been paved over because of one thing that they said that was misinterpreted or taken the wrong way or even out of context.
They would cry victim or something. They would try to deflect, right? That's all these people can do is come up with something else that's wrong with them that you have to feel sorry for them about. It's I have no sympathy for the people that make the lists and put Twitch streamers on the lists, right? Like a Nazi camp kind of thing. These are people.
That was nuts.
These are people that literally rat on their Jewish neighbor. Like these are, I would never say that in a video, so I'm glad I can say it here.
Yeah,
that's about as far as I'll go. But it reminds me so much. These are people that would tattletale and get people arrested or whatever. Like these are exactly, and that's scary that those people are in the U.S. or in the world right now. That those are, if ever things went bad with the world, those are not people that you should ever align with, because they'll stab you in the back really quick. So that stuff was, and like it had an impact. Like people were bullied, maybe because of the list, maybe not, but it definitely gave them an easy way of finding these people. People were bullied. People retired. There was that VTuber, right, that literally retired because she was bullied.
That was insane.
Girlfriend Reviews, who is a more progressive-y left kind of person anyway. She was bullied into stop it. She was crying on stream. So they're going after their own, too, is another weird... These are people that are not being far right. You have to be, I guess, not very... nowadays, anybody's far right, but...
I mean, the bar is so low there. Yesterday, they called Russell Brand far right.
Yeah, anybody's far right. But people that literally would align with them in most ways... Even J.K. Rowling is a basic feminist. Like, she's very female-driven, which is fine. She's very, female-heavy. Isn't it crazy that somebody that's like them in a lot of ways stands for those kind of things? One thing. You just have to not agree with them on one thing, and they'll turn on you. So,
it's like a religious cult. You get
it's a cult.
exorcised immediately because you say that the Earth is not the center of the universe, and then Galileo's gone and he's excommunicated. But it's the same now, where it's like it's a purge. So even in their own camp, they like you're saying, they will just completely wipe anyone out who disagrees with them on one thing, and it's not just a small thing anymore. This is becoming state sponsored. You have people in high places of power in the government now, like health and safety, for example, saying we need to do this or that for gender affirming care or whatever it is. Like, they're literally sponsoring the kinds of angry people that go after their own like this. So it's becoming mainstream now. It's becoming a normal thing to hate people based on their opinion on what they learned in biology. Like 5 to 10 years ago, it wasn't crazy to say that we're going down a scary path.
And even if you disagree with those people, which is fine. I don't care what anybody else. I care what I think. It's a small community. Even if you don't agree, move on. That's the whole thing, right? You can believe whatever you want to believe. You can do whatever you want to your body or whatever.
Exactly.
I truly do not care. But when it comes to putting people on lists and attacking people, it's why I've always been so defensive, is because, nobody's really ever gone after. I mean, there's that imposter thing that was going on Twitter that one day, but nobody's really gone after me for doing, and I kind of put myself in the line of fire because nobody really does it to me. But I see other people, and it's not right. Liking a game is got to be where we draw the line, right? Like, you got to draw the line somewhere, and telling people they're the worst things on the planet, getting people fired, getting people off of Twitch, the line should be liking a game or playing a game. That should be, you should never cross that line. And we did. We literally just did that, where now you're not allowed to enjoy something in your own home that maybe only you is enjoying it. You know what I mean? The people they bully, yes, are people, I guess, that do it online, so for others. But, technically they're telling anybody that buys this game that you're certain things. So you're telling the average Joe, a friend of mine, close friend, who doesn't keep up with anything, maybe he gets it. Does that mean he's that? He doesn't even know this is going on. If he gets it, does that make... Well, in their heads, he is that. He's just getting a game. Only he will play it. Nobody will even know he played it because he's a no one. He's a close friend of mine, but, nobody knows him. Nobody knows, in context. People don't know us. So, when you start doing that, you've lost. You've gone to the dark side, whatever you want to say. There's no going back from that, too. These people will always be that. So, like you said, if they ever want to make something, which is very funny that they don't have any creativity, but no. But I mean, in all honesty, you can never shake that. So you're the person, the person who made that list for Twitch. You're forever that person to me. I don't care what you do, right? That guy, it was a guy. I don't know his name, but if he makes something, you're the guy who wanted to curate a list of names so people could harass them. That was what you wanted, right? Oh, you're the guy who made that book? Well, I know who you are. That will never leave you.
Every major policy in every company's book.
Yeah, I don't know how that's allowed.
Incite direct threats or harassment. Even on the most free speech website or any town square, if you're telling people to go harass or beat someone up because they played a game you didn't want them to play, you should be the one.
Or telling people go report people, come to me, write their names down on this sheet of paper. If you explain this if you explain it in a different context, it would be very scary, right? You tell us a town square, 300 years ago. I want you to go around to your neighbors, and I want you to find out who's doing whatever. You come to me, you write their name down. And this list, obviously, we're going to do something. We may not tell you what we're going to do with this list, but I want you to go spy on people, report them, write them down, and then we'll take it from there. And that's exactly what this is. It's just not in pencil and paper, and it's not the 1700s. So you tell somebody that now, and that sounds atrocious, and that's literally what that guy did.
It's V for Vendetta, but before the slope is fully slipped down. Like, this is how these things start. They start small, innocuous. They get ignored because it's in something, like entertainment or games or whatever. But once they feel confident enough to do such, terrible things to someone who just plays a game, they're going to move on to other places. They're going to keep going, and they feel, self-righteous. I support a boycott. In a capitalist society, if you don't like something, if you don't, if you're against a product or a company or whatever, boycott it. Fine, that's great. You have every right. Don't buy it. Don't give them your money. Don't support it. You can personally not have your support going to what you decide or perceive as, even if you're wrong, as this or that. So if you think that people playing a game based on a book series, based on a story
one
that
person
an author wrote in '97, way before she even knew about this whole new, because it's a new thing, before she even knew about all this stuff, there's something wrong with you, but you do have the right. You can boycott it. Don't buy it. If you think that playing Hogwarts Legacy makes you like transphobic or whatever, don't buy it. Don't play it. But telling everyone else that if they play a game that's enjoyable and completely disconnected from the woman who isn't even what you say she is, you just disagree with what she said.
As soon as you step over that line. Like, when you review a product, you are, in a way, telling people what to do, what not to do. I try to leave it always up to the person at the end of the day, but you can dissuade somebody or persuade somebody to do it. But as soon as you step over the line and you start to insult the person, right? So if you're reviewing a game and you say, well, this game is horrible, I would never do it. I would suggest you not do it. And that's about as far as you should go. I did that with Saints Row. Saints Row I thought was atrocious. I would never play it. I don't think anybody else should. But I know people do. I know people in my community did. So what I said is, I would never. I don't think you should. But if you do, that's fine. Like, that's where you have to stop. Because as soon as you step over the line and say, okay, this game's bad, now let me tell you why you're bad for playing it. No, that's just, you just stepped it. You can tell people, you can tell people it's bad and you shouldn't play it because it's bad. But once you insult them, well, now that's too far. You went too far, and I thought we were past. Like, I thought that was set in stone, where it's understandable that you don't kind of step over the line, and even if you don't understand why somebody likes or doesn't like a game, you just don't touch it. Basically, you leave it alone because it's not you. It's not you, so who cares? It's like you said, like you boycott it, you don't, or whatever. 5 years ago when there wasn't a boycott, it's just, oh, okay, they're going to get the game or they're not going to get the game. I don't care. It's not my money. But nowadays, for Hogwarts, now you are something because you bought it. And you're also something if you didn't buy it. Now you're some sort of like righteous, like warrior if you didn't buy it. So it's like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not for that. And boy, did it backfire. That's the best news, is it didn't work.
So much
spectacularly. It didn't work like at all.
They released great commercials for it and great concepts and trailers. So, I mean, all the free publicity just brought people to the marketing that they did pay for. And then they're like, oh, shit, this looks great. I want to play this. Yeah. And, like, also look at your intentions. So you have, like, A and B, right? You are on B because your intentions are, I can't recommend this game because I don't want you to feel bad today. I don't want you to have a bad experience. I want you to waste your money on something that you probably won't enjoy. Right. And then intention A, they're the ones who are saying, I don't want you to get this game because I don't want to have to bully you if you do. It's like, what?
And you'll make me feel bad. If you buy it, then you've insulted me because you're supporting it. Well, that doesn't mean that, right? Yeah. Like, that's actually the thing. That I think is like the righteous, that's their righteous side of it, is if you buy this game, we've already told you what it means to buy this game. So now if you buy it, that's an insult to us because we just told you about how awful and mean-spirited this game is. So you bought it, you went against what is obviously the truth. So now you've hurt us because you bought a game that's got nothing to do with us. You hurt me. So now I'm going to come after you. It's that little cycle right there, that little conversation. That's the whole thing. But like I've said before in videos, they are so simple-minded that picking and choosing doesn't work with this kind of stuff, at least in my opinion. You got to go all in. So, and that's the thing I've made videos on. Throw your phone out. Throw your computer out. Throw your everything, because it all comes from slavery of some kind. It all comes from, bad working conditions. Everything's got a bad past. It's the same thing, I don't want to get political with the whole, the idea that we always have to, atone for our past. You have to improve from your past. Maybe you know about it, or you learn, you have to learn from it. So you do have to know about it. But to always dwell on the past, I thought that's a thing you're told as a kid, to not do that. Don't dwell on the past, right? That's a the sticks and stones, the words will never, these are childhood sayings that I guess are no longer things that we should tell our kids. But yeah, so everything's got a bad past, literally everything. So if you're going to go all in with JK, if you're really going to do it, do it. So I better not see you tweet, because Elon, right? I'm sure you have something to say about Elon, so why are you even on Twitter? You're tweeting from your you in fact, these people that go after us for Hogwarts, they're the same people that went against Elon. So why are you even still here? Because doesn't that already make you a hypocrite? You're tweeting, so you're already against Elon, so that's a hypocrite. But you're doing it on your phone or a computer. Well, there's a hypocrite again.
Most likely Chinese children under pennies.
Your clothes, your bed, your dresser, your electricity. How far do you want to go? And their answer would be not very, let's just focus on Hogwarts Legacy. But I want to go all in. Go all the way through it. Because you want to be so righteous that everybody's got to be so pure. Well, I got a story to tell. You better throw out everything that's the most upsetting thing. JK is so evil. This game, it's a video game. It's entertainment. If you're going to go all in, you're such a hypocrite. You use your phone every day more than you would play Hogwarts Legacy, right? These people.
And what damage is a video game really doing?
None. Zero. Well, what damage is a phone?
Yeah, the community that they're claiming the support is that there's support for that community in this game.
Yeah.
That's set in an unrealistic time period.
That community buys the game.
Yes. And it's they hate buy. And I'm and then a lot of them are just playing it and enjoying it because it's not a full hegemony. So it's you're actually going against a lot of people who do support her. There are a ton of trans people who support J.K. Rowling. And it's oh, so are you saying that they're also, the community you claim to support? Are you going to exercise them? Are they next in the?
You have to. That's what they do, right?
Is that circular reasoning where it's they just go around and around, where their dogma is, their religion. So basically, they think that I am righteous, I'm good because I wear these, pins and these things and stuff, and then you're thinking. Like you said, all right, go all in then. So ask a socialist to, boycott capitalism. They never will because they like money. So
right.
Bernie Sanders is on a book tour right now, selling a book called, It's Okay to Hate Capitalism or whatever. He's charging over $100 for a speaker's fee, per ticket. It's you're the most. He's got 3 houses and multi-million dollars. He's the most capitalist socialist I've ever seen in my life. And he's, I'm always practice what you preach and show us that it'll work so that you can convince people to join you. Because I understand if you need to live until you see your utopia, right? His excuse has always been, well, my policy's never been implemented and stuff. And I'm yeah, well, what would happen if it was? You would lose your houses, and you would lose all that money, and you would lose all the, the grifting, right? But that's why he's never actually going to want to do it, because he's going to have to, give them his money, his multi houses to the people of the state where the houses are. And he would never do that. He doesn't actually practice what he preaches. Most people don't. But there are a lot of people that try. They try their best.
And you don't have.
It's obvious.
Right, but you don't have to that. I don't do much. I sit here. I don't go outside. I'm not involved in many things. But I'm not preaching to do it. So that's always been the thing with me is yeah, I try to practice what I preach, and I don't preach much. Like
Yeah.
all I really preach is like be honest and just say what you feel, and you got to follow certain guidelines on different social medias. That's about as far as it. I don't get too complicated, because when you get too complicated, you get into that whole you do it with Hogwarts, you're already lost, because you got to do it with everything. You can fight them just on the Hogwarts part, and you will win. We've won, right? You can fight them just on the logistics of Hogwarts, but you can also take it away from Hogwarts and tell them to keep going with other things, because they should, because that's what they live by, right? So
Yeah.
they lose right when they start, and we really don't lose when we start, because we're not. At least I'm. I don't think you either. You and me specifically. I mean, we don't tell people what to do.
No, and we're not making a political statement by buying the game. We just wanted to play a fun game.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Like
I want to cover it. I want to make a little bit of money, which
some
was
of the books.
coincidental, because actually I didn't do Hogwarts because it just did well early on when I made very little money. So it's not even like I was doing it really for money at all. But it's become a thing. So like I'm doing it for the channel, but I'm also just like I play games nonstop. That's all I think. I don't really watch movies. I don't really watch shows. I just play games. So that's all I want to do. And if you want to call me something for that, well, there's a lot of people that do that. So I guess you have to call all of, and it just snowballs, because I don't think they knew what they were getting themselves. I think they thought it'd be small. I think they thought this game wouldn't do that well. Like in the beginning, I think as it got closer, they all realized it. But in the beginning, small group, we can stop people from buying it. The Wizarding World's dying, which it was. It definitely, like Fantastic Beasts proved it was dying. But not the parks and stuff.
Because they thought it was their fault that it went down, but really it was a mixture of just like a bad filmmaking, bad deadlines, and overbearing Warner Brothers.
And it was really only the film. These like the parks, the merchandise was always very strong. Yeah. So,
the depth too. So it's like the whole giant.
And Ezra being in it in the third one, right around the time Ezra was going off the deep end, like nothing. None of that stuff helped. But if you're disconnected, maybe you see that and say, oh, there's, you can smell blood. There's weakness in the Wizarding World. And there was in a part in the entertainment side of the Wizarding World. And they thought they could, but as soon as it became clear, which it was to me like 2 years ago, that the game was going to sell insane, they already lost. Because you can't call 15 million people these words. You can't. Like you've gone way too far. It sold 12. I'm sure it's probably way past 12 at this point that we're recording.
I don't know what the exact math is, because I saw 850 million a couple weeks ago, so I'm assuming it's
it sold 12 million units. I'm saying. So
I was talking money, so I don't know.
Oh yeah. I'm sure at this point, definitely it's hit over $1 billion, and definitely has probably hit like 14. I bet you 14 or so million units sold. So you can't call 14 million people these words, these bad things that they call them. You can't do that. Like, there's not that many people in the world that are actually those words. I'll just say it, I guess, for the podcast, like transphobes. Yeah, you can't call. There's not even 14 million transphobes in the world.
No,
there's not. So, and if you're telling me that everybody who bought the game is that, oh my God, the world is full of these people. Then these evil people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they don't do anything in public. They don't do anything online. They only buy games. Like that's
they only.
The
worst crime.
They play games, and I'm like, okay, well, if that's what they
That's a good point, actually, man, where it's like, you don't, why, if there's 14 million transphobes, then, like, shouldn't, like, we hear, like, police reports all the time of, like, things happening around the world, right? Like, all the time, because there'd be incidents daily. Instead, it's these evil people buying video games. The worst crime.
What did we do to detriment the community? They played Hogwarts Legacy. Like, okay. What else
I had
did
a guy
they do?
come. I live in a condo, and we had a leak and a little small hole in my daughter's room. A guy came in, a random guy. He played Hogwarts. I was talking to him about it.
Yeah.
This random guy. The game, and I don't know anything about him. He doesn't know anything about me. I don't think he's evil. He doesn't think I'm evil. Rational.
Yeah, just play a damn game, and it's getting to the point where if you go see any movie made by millions of people work on movies. If it's made by one person they didn't like, It's like, okay, I'm sitting in the theater and I'm not even thinking about it, but I am that subconsciously. That's what it's all been. They're like, well, you're subconsciously biased against this or that. And I'm like, and how do you know about what's in my subconscious? Like, you know nothing about me.
And
You
it's
know
up to the
nothing about
individual. Like,
situation.
I pick my own battles. Like, I'm not seeing the Flash, and I'm not seeing the Flash because of Ezra. But I'm not saying that if you see the Flash, you are a certain thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm stopping there.
Exactly,
I'm not
yeah.
going to see it. I hate Ezra Miller because of the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard stuff. But if you see it, fine. I don't care. It's your I
Yeah.
don't think the movie's going to do all that well, so I'll probably still be happy about it at the end of the day. But I don't if it's and it looks good. The movie actually looks pretty good. So if it's good, I want people to enjoy it. That's great. I don't care. Like that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe that's I'm not even that old. Like I'm 26, but I just feel like as I get older, I care less and less about anybody else. But not in a malicious way. It's like just I'll live my life. You all live your life. Why would I get mad if you see? The only movie I would get mad, maybe you would agree with me on this one. The only movie I would get mad if people saw is like a Pirates movie without Johnny Depp. I would like make a video saying, "Come on, guys! Like we gotta put our foot down for this one." That's the only movie I would get like upset about. But even like an Alec Baldwin film or Ezra Miller, whatever, like I'm not gonna like flip out because somebody sees it or doesn't see it. Like it's whatever. Pirates without Johnny, or like if it was a Pirates movie with Amber Heard or something, that'd be the only one where I would say, okay, we have got to stop this.
Yeah, like how many movies is Harvey Weinstein making these days? Like he's in jail, right? But if he came out and he made a film, I would definitely tell people like, hey, if you watch this, you're supporting, a guy who did these things. But I'm not telling people if you watch this, you are Harvey Weinstein. Like it's a false equivalency, and it's just like be upfront with them. But there's only so much you will ever know, though. So, like, yeah, there are things that we do know about. There are people we do know about. But then there's so many people and things that we don't know about. Like, how many more abusers in Hollywood are making films and not getting ousted or getting caught? Like, there's probably still some. Like, they probably only did one or two things instead of 500 like he did.
Yeah.
And they paid off a couple people. And then they're able to quietly, trudge through and keep their head down and not doing anything else and trying to keep on good behavior or going to rehab. And Hollywood rehab is just going and doing drugs with a bunch of other rich people in white sweat jumpers, but they wean you off your drugs with other drugs, but and then it's a revolving door because rehab never seems to work for them. I've seen rehab work for so many people in like different states and communities, lower levels, but Hollywood, it's like their rehab makes them worse almost every time. But that's just a side note. I mean, they. You can't ever know the full extent of things you don't like about any given thing because you're going to consume things. You're going to buy.
And you also don't want to think about it too hard. Like, there could be people on the set, the person who holds like the boom mic and stuff. Like, they may not be a good person. If you met them in real life, maybe you'd hate them. But like if you have to go through your whole life thinking that, that's a depressed. I think I've said that before. Like, if I have to think about that every day, that's such a. Well, I've said like. What have I said? Like being sorry for other people. There's people on Twitter, including, I won't say his name because it's like a guy in the gaming industry. There's people that will say like, you have to feel sorry for others at all times. A little bit more political, I guess, sided. But it's like, I can't, but taking that and like expanding it, thinking too hard about others is just a waste of time and emotions and energy. To go around, just that one example, to go around and always feel bad about other people because they were born into a life that everybody's racist or whatever. Like to think that every day must be exhausting. To think like you're privileged and everybody else is such like a weakling and like a moron. Like how can you do that? But the same thing in this sense, like to worry every day that somebody's playing a game or watching a movie, doesn't that get exhausting? To these freaks online. And freaks meaning people that will, dox and attack people, not anything else.
Threatening,
swatting. SWAT. Yeah, and those things can get pretty serious. So those weirdos, like, doesn't even them, like, I still will, like, I feel for them in a sense. Like, how do they feel every day? They must live a atrocious life where they're just in a constant state of feeling bad either for themselves or for other people. And feeling bad for other people gives you that righteous kind of energy, but really they are feeling bad for themselves. They mask it, right? And we've said it before. Like they're saying you're hurting a community. Really, you're hurting them. And you're only hurting them because they decided that. So they did it to themselves. So these people have legit mental issues. And I mean mental issues as in they have a problem. Like these things shouldn't get to you this much. And you need help. And that's okay. And but
It's okay to get help. Yeah.
It's okay to get help. Yeah. But we're in a society where that's actually the right thing. They're in the right. And that's how you crumble everything. That's how everything falls apart. And it is currently.
Yeah, because people are too scared to like tell them that their personal.
The guy who
are
made the
wrong.
website, any rational would be to go to him and straighten him out. We'll say, and it doesn't have to be violence. Actually, for me, it would be like an understanding of like, why in God's name do you think this is a good move, right? Like, let's try to figure this out.
And if he
Like
doubles
that
down
would be
and
the
gets
right
people
thing to
hurt,
do in
the
any
rest don't.
society. Nowadays, people would copycat him and be, oh, that's the right thing to do. Like that is such a, oh my God. It makes me sad, I guess, because, but the flip that makes me sad. But then to realize, oh, they're in the minority and it didn't actually work. In fact, it backfired. And now more people than ever know these people's games. That makes me very happy because it's how you win. It's how this stuff stops.
Yeah, we're gonna be approaching, 50 million players of this game by like next couple of years. I wouldn't be shocked if we hit 50 million over a 3-year period, and then a sequel. So it's like, it's a great game. I would give it a 9 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10, for my rating. And like I loved it, and I would like other people who like the books or the films, which, as I read out earlier, is hundreds of millions of people worldwide.
I didn't know it was that many. I think it's 550 million. That's nuts.
It sold over 500 million copies, and that's not even including the $7 billion, $8 billion that went into the films, and that's not even including
theme parks,
just all the things like there are people who love Harry Potter who never read it or watched it, but like they just know Harry Potter. They have things for it. It's like that's how big it is, and it's kind of like Star Wars. You don't have to watch all of them to be in love with Star Wars, and it's like it's just there's too many people in this fan group or community or whatever you want to call it to call them all one thing. Like you said, like just trash them all for playing a game or still supporting like what could be their favorite author. Like who cares? Let them have their favorite author. They're engaging with her work. They're not everybody's reading her tweets and then putting it on their wall and saying, yes, this is it. This is my belief system for everything. It's like it's not even true, and it's false.
Pretty much
there.
no one. Like I know that's maybe an exaggeration, but I mean, really, I'd say the percentage would be very low of the people that actually take any of these people say all that seriously. Like nobody care. And I've said it before. I bet you there's also people, say of the 12 million, I bet you maybe half don't even know who J.K. Rowling is. I know she's so big. I mean, some people are so big that like everybody knows, but I guarantee you there's people that bought that game that don't know who she is. Or if you ask them who wrote the Harry Potter books, they can't tell you her name. They don't know her name. There's definitely those people. So some of the people don't, because you don't think that far. And I said that to Troy, who worked on the game. I told him that with like an end credits thing. Like I get people that don't watch end credits because you don't think of it. And that's okay. It's a normal casual player, or I'm going to go see Scream tomorrow. Like I'm not going to read every name I don't care. And I understand from their side, like they want to see their name and, their recognition. They deserve it. They deserve to have their name on there. But you have to understand that people don't really care. That's like part of the
legal thing.
Yeah,
like,
that's part of the industry. People
scroll the credits.
Right. But the food, whatever they call them, the caterers, like they have to understand they're important in that sense, but they have to understand if they appear in the end credits, people could care less who they are. But that's just the way it is. People don't pay attention that much. It's the same, but you can take that and keep going. People don't know who J.K. Rowling is. Now, a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. And they like you said, they make it seem like all of us are on her Twitter. And I've never followed her. I've never liked one of her tweets ever. Period. Never. And I don't have a Twitter anymore, so I can't. But you know what I mean?
Back though. I mean, they don't take the appeals of the little guys, but I mean, you were bigger than most of the people who get suspended on our level. So it's like, hopefully they'll wake up and realize that, because mine was like, I appealed for my old ones, whatever. They were like,
did you get an answer, or did you?
I got since I've had a ton of accounts, so there's the problem. The appeals that I put in, the answers that I got were largely just like, "We got your appeal, thank you."
That's what
Nothing.
I did. Yeah, that's what I've
Yeah.
done.
So it's like,
I'd
if
like
they
a no
follow up,
or a like. I'd like an answer. If it's not a yes, I'd like them to literally tell me, no, we rejected your appeal, because at least that means they got it. The
yeah,
whole email thing where, oh, thanks, we'll add it to this case file. That's a bot. That's not
yeah.
you haven't seen my appeal yet. Come on. Yeah, that's annoying. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the whole problem with this is just that with the activism is that the privilege is misplaced. They think that the privilege is like inherent in DNA or skin color or like economic status or whatever, who your family is, but then it's actually the privilege is having the boredom of being able to spend all of your time, running around attacking people over trivial things, films, games, dumb shit. Like at the end of the day, when you're looking at people in third world countries, none of them even consider what would happen if their men started saying they feel like women. Like, it literally, the concept does not even apply to a lot of people in other countries because they don't have the luxury of sitting there saying like, yeah, how do I feel today? I do a lot of like nail. I buy a lot of products. Am I more of like, am I a woman? Like they don't have that luxury. They literally just like, they have to live their lives. They have to support each other, and they still live by a lot of older biological
more like
dictates.
instinctual kind of, and it's
Yeah, like
and
the
like
strength of some have to be used to help, the aspects of others, and it's like these people don't realize that they think that privilege comes from all these other sources where it doesn't. It actually comes from being able to sit around and not have to fight for survival, and instead be able to say like, after 4 years of college, what am I going to do with my life? I'm going to chase people down, tar feather them because they played a Harry Potter game, or they, retweeted a candidate that you don't like, or they watched a program that you think is evil or whatever, or they supported something that you think is anti whatever. And it's just like,
yeah.
that's where the privilege is. You have the luxury and the time and the just to go through nonsense and attack everyone on Earth who has a busy life. Who actually does things or whatever, or has a job, or, everybody from different.
Well, that's that. Yeah,
circumstances.
that's the thing where it's. I agree. Where it's we're living in a golden age where you're able to feel how you want to feel. You know what I mean? So like in a way, that's really good because
Yeah.
that comes. Maybe you don't feel like you're in the right, whatever, and you want to change, and that's fine. Maybe we can focus on like our mental health, which also people. Third world countries, they can't really focus on that either, right? We're living
Yeah.
in like this golden age of being able to worry about these things that you wouldn't have been able to worry about in the past, and then you're squandering it because you're given so much leeway that then you have all this time and you're wasting it,
Yeah. Like you're
taking
just
it like the
attacking
one step
people.
further. Like we have it, we're right there, on being able to contemplate, like you said, like going to even going to college and like. Or not going to college, having like a year where you spend with your parents where you like debate what you want to do. That's a privilege because hundreds of years ago or in a different, even right now, a different place, you can't do that. You immediately you got to do something. Or back in the day, right? You would just immediately contribute to society. There's no time to take a year off. Are you nuts? Right?
A lot of the
Like
kids will be working.
the
Like
kids would,
mass, like
like my
everywhere.
grandmother was she died this past year. She was 100. So she was in Italy when she was a kid. They like farmed and stuff. They didn't have a year off. They had to contribute. You know what I mean?
That's incredible. Though,
And
100.
it's okay to not do like trust me, I'm lazy. I don't want to do that. So, but we're living in a good age where you don't have to. We have a structured society, and then we're right there. We have it. And then we just take that one extra step where it's like, all right, well, now we're using our time wrong almost, right?
Yeah.
Like we're going a little too
Basically,
far.
Yeah. Now you're telling people like you can do whatever you want at all, and then that just starts to tear down things that do work and that need to stay. It's like,
You
damn
need a little bit of
like,
structure.
we gave you everything. We will give you everything. To just leave us alone, leave people alone. But no, it's like it's never enough for some people who make it their entire being, their entire purpose is like
Right. If that's all you
misguided
have,
new
if that's all you
religion
have,
of,
that's all you have, and that's
I
what
must
you
purge
live.
the infidels, basically.
Yeah,
It's like
that's the sad thing with these people is they fall in like what they say is who they are, and that's as deep as it goes. These people, some of them would probably introduce themselves to their friends, if they have friends, as like these boycotters of Hogwarts. Like, what do you do? What defines you as a person? I tell other people they're evil. Like, that's who they
Yeah.
are. That's as deep as it goes. And again, like, how can you live like that? How can that's not how I define myself. I've never really thought of how to define myself, but to define yourself that basically, that shallow, right? That's how you get there. That's how you continue there, because that's all they have. So they because the sad thing is you have to either completely fix them or completely lose them, because they're gone. Like, if that's all they have,
Yeah.
to tell them that that's meaningless, you're telling them they're meaningless. I get it from their perspective, right? You say, well, none of this stuff matters. Well, it's their entire life. So are you telling them to do a certain thing to themselves then? Like, you know what I mean? It really actually would get that deep to some of these people, which is sad. Yeah. It's really sad. But the only other way is you have to get help. You have to fix that.
Yeah, it's just the way you can believe whatever you want, I think, but the way you exercise it, it massively depends. So it's like, if there's a way that, hopefully this shows people, attacking everyone based on a game is gonna fail. Maybe they shift to more important things, or maybe they just reevaluate. But I think that the proof is in the figures, and we, as much as people are going to get trashed for enjoying it or playing it or streaming or whatever or supporting it, just having fun, for God's sake. It's like, yeah, I mean, what would happen if they boycotted Lego Dimensions, for example? It's just like kids. There's just kids playing it. There's kids having fun.
Yeah.
Some things are just so harmless, and it's just it contributed to her financially, of course, whatever. But there's no avoiding that, because unless they want to now have, like, if they have a job that's not this, if they want to live in a world where I can just go and say, oh, look at their social media history, look at what they did, look at who they attacked and how they did it, look at the doxing, and compare it to Nazis, and then just say, yeah, like, instant fired. And then they're like, well, now I have no money, I can't support myself, and I'm like on the streets, and it's their own sword impaled on, like, it's become double-edged, and I don't think they want to live in a world like that. So I mean, there are a lot of people that need to stop trying to make a world like that. It's just, there's not much you can do about it, but besides just beat it without without hurting people, without being malicious. So I think that's pretty much what we did, but I just figured
nobody hurt them. Nobody stepped over the line. We voted with our wallet in this case, right? We spent a lot of money, and we proved that we just want the game. Like, that's all that really matters. Overwhelmingly, maybe there's small little wars that break out in the community and stuff, but overwhelmingly, we just showed we don't care. We just want the game. Make a good game. I think that's actually what's kind of been lost, is I think maybe people are more willing to give the game a little extra kind of like bonus points for like surviving, which, I mean, I get it, right? I almost want to, like, they should get a bonus for surviving, but you can't, you got to be careful to not, you got to be careful that you still have to judge the game, right? The game still, like, I was very honest with it, and every time I've talked about it, I don't think it's perfect. I think it's got issues. I think it's a great first attempt, and it was really good, and it's not my game of the year, actually, though, controversially enough, but it's my second game of the year. So,
what's your number one?
Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh, damn, I haven't even played it.
It's so good. I mean, I can do another 2-hour episode on that. No, I mean, that game came out of nowhere, and that game is phenomenal. But we showed we just want the game, and there's work to be done on the game. But I think that's a good thing. Like, going into the second game, it should largely be about the improvements. Let's talk about what worked and didn't work with the first game, and what they can. And it's only the game. We're only talking about the game. I'll still fight, the controversies and stuff that pop up, but overwhelmingly, the new talking points are, okay, what can they work on and improve to make the second game better? That's what we should be talking about in 2-3 years, and it is what we will be, and hopefully it's more quiet, like, outside of that. I mean, I think it will be.
Speaking about the quiet, my last point is going to be asking you about the media. So with this one, I think we saw super clearly egregious lines drawn. was it Verge that gave it a 1 instead
Wired,
of
I think, right?
Wired? And yeah, it was either Verge or Wired who said there's no magic in the game, which
Yeah.
was categorically insane. Like, I didn't follow a whole lot of this controversy really like too much. I saw it, but I didn't really get into it at all because I'm more of a movie guy myself. But
Yeah.
I knew the entire time everything. Like I saw the first trailer for this in 2020 when they released it for the next gen. As soon as the pre-orders open, I took my GameStop gift card that I got from giving them an old PS4 Pro. I pre-ordered the game. Didn't really think about it a single time after that because I was like, "Hey, good game. The trailer is great. I'm sold. I love like the Wizarding World. I love the look of this game. I want to play next gen games that look great when I get my console. Pre-ordered. That's it. And then I saw the shit happening. I was just kind of like scrolling through and just seeing the news articles and everything. Like I didn't really get into it though. I didn't read them a lot, but the reviews I also didn't really pay attention because I was already sold. And you know, regardless of whatever they did or said, I was sold because of the game. Not because of the controversy or just, you know, like you said, a lot of people buying it like just because they want to counter the controversy. I can imagine a lot of Daily Wire people who probably haven't played a video game in their life. I would imagine they bought a few copies. Like Shapiro probably got some. I can imagine those guys are just like grabbed some just to do it, you know, just to
Which you know what? I will controversially say, I don't love that because you don't want to. I mean, it's fine, but you don't want to build a game off of that. You know what I mean? You don't want like to go into the second one. I don't want Warner Bros. Or Avalanche to have to rely on those people because spite buying won't always be around. You know what I mean? Like narratives change, people change. So if you're relying on, say, an extra million just from people that hate the boycotters, it's a funny thing. Like you laugh and say, "Ha, it backfired." But you never want to rely. You know what I mean? You never want to rely on that.
Yeah, I think games improvements are completely contingent upon feedback, and people like that aren't giving feedback because they're not even playing.
Right. Yeah, they're just buying it, or they're buying multiple copies, or you have people like in the political world that are buying it.
Yeah,
I don't care about their opinion. Trust me on games. These are people that say some really wacky things about like entertainment of what they think is good and bad, and I don't align with. You know what I mean? So you definitely don't want to rely. It's funny for sure, and I will take it again for a second game. But you never want to rely on either side. You don't really want to rely on boycotts or non-boycotts for a game because it's not reliable. It's literally not reliable. Like from one game to the next, something could change.
Be about story and gameplay, like nothing else.
It's on the game.
But
I mean, quick thoughts on the. You're fine. Quick thoughts on the articles and stuff. They ruin themselves too. They ruin themselves probably more than the boycotting people because like they're all kind of nameless. As you can actually tell, I can't name a single person. Actually, I can name one when that imposter thing was going on about me, but that's the only reason why I can name her name. But you can't actually name them. Like these are even the guy who made that Twitch site is probably more evil than any review. Even the Wired review, the guy who made the Twitch thing is worse, but I don't even know his name. But the thing with sites is they have the name. They got the branding. So they ruin themselves forever because you can never recover. GameSpot, The Gamer, PC Gamer, The Verge, or I think it's The Verge. You can never recover from this stuff. So, they drew their line and they said, we're not covering it. Or we're going to cover it, but we're only going to talk about the controversy, which you're still covering it. You're still making money off the clicks. So you're really just doing it for clout. That was always funny to me, right? The sites. There was an interview from some site when the game came out, and the interview was from a different site, and the site interviewed, and their article was like, look at how brave this site is for not buying the game, reviewing it, covering it. Look how brave they are. They're sacrificing revenue for their site. Well, you go on the site, and there's like 6 articles in the last 2 days when that happened. But it was all the controversy. So they are still covering the game. They're still making money off the game. They're just not buying the game. So they didn't sacrifice anything.
Pay for.
Yeah, they didn't sacrifice nothing. They just didn't do a review, which nobody would have cared about anyway if they did do a review, right? Yeah. So that was hilarious when that happened. Because it's like they're still making money off the game. It's just you're not giving a walkthrough. You're talking about JK. That's all you're doing. So, yeah, I think they kind of ruined them. And I think they realized it. IGN realized it, and they pivoted. I fully believe that IGN knew what was happening, and they gave a good, honest review. I believe. I trust that guy really meant to give it a 9. I'm not saying you have to give it a 9, but I believe
the review seemed.
Yeah, I think he believed
honestly,
that. Yeah. So some sites I think were covered, but you'll never forget. Nobody will ever forget the stuff IGN did. Like I see that, I have a big Hogwarts community. People make fun of them daily, So nobody will forget that. It's the water's too wet thing that IGN did years back. You don't forget. So any of these sites that went after Troy or did these stupid reviews or boycotted it and told us the girl I'm thinking of that I can name but I won't, she works for GameSpot. So, I'll never forget that. I can never separate that. So GameSpot, it's always been dead to me anyway, but it's definitely dead to me now. So that's what they've done. And then some sites just refusing to cover it. Washington Post, I can actually name that guy as well, but I won't. There's plenty of people that just destroyed themselves and destroyed the companies. And like I said, I think that will cause more harm permanently because it's hard to forget IGN. It's easy to forget these 2-followered accounts on Twitter, right? I don't know any of them, but IGN, I'll always remember IGN. So.
And then the final question for you actually is education. So, with what exactly? I've heard this term a lot, but I'm not super literate in gaming issues. What exactly was Gamergate, and what the hell happened? Because it sounds to me like there was a big hubbub, and every single mainstream media thing covered it too, but I wasn't privy to it at all. It was like 2013, 2014. I was younger. I didn't really follow anything. Do you know anything about what exactly that was and whether there's any fallout that's still going on from it?
Well, people still reference it, even though it's not around anymore. It was basically a combination of things like women's issues and being singled out in studios. So it was that kind of stuff. And it was more like gatekeeping games that we have a possession over it and we need to be more inclusive and open to letting other. It was basically those two things. But it was a lot of it was kind of the equivalent of the Harvey thing, a lot of tattletaling on things that were going on. So it was basically that. Which is gone now. There is some studios that are still pretty scummy, and not every studio has respect for each individual, but overwhelmingly a lot of things have cleared up. And but the only people that talk about it now are people that don't know what it was because they weren't around that era, or people that still want to make it a thing.
I've only seen mainstream media cover. I've never seen. There are billions of consumers of games. I haven't heard anybody talk about it anymore. I've heard references to it. That was
it's even. It's like a Me Too thing, even with Hollywood. It's the only people that bring that stuff, which is fine. There were some important issues. People weren't being treated right in the industry, and people still aren't being treated right now. For sure. And crunch and stuff, and people working 70-hour weeks. There's some bad stuff that still happens. So you should be able to talk about that stuff. But most of the people that talk about it now just want to go back to that feel-bad era instead of acknowledging we've made progress and we'll continue to make progress. It's the same thing with movies too, right? Everybody that talks about it now, it's much better now. Much better than it was, back then.
Because a lot of them are actors, and they get. I don't mean movie sense. I mean activist kind of actors, where if they're not outraged about it or something or throwing a fit, then they're not getting the attention they used to get. So often when a problem gets better, that actually makes them mad because a lot of them wanted the progress, but then a lot of them didn't. So there's a contingent that's angry that things actually got better as a result of their work, because then they're damn it, well now I have nothing to bitch about. So
because you have to complain. And you have to say that you're the victim, but you can't live there forever. So, of course, you're going to push reform. And then when it reforms, but now you're not that sorry sap anymore.
Yeah.
And so you lost that. And, it's kind of, and then you have to kind of create it again. Or they're part of, Amber, right? She's part of, foundations and stuff. So if reforms happen or don't happen, that affects these groups that these actors are then part of these groups. So they benefit or don't benefit. So
Yeah, some
yeah,
people like her just don't even care about like who they claim to care about at all, because like
yeah, oh, yeah,
obviously being a fraud is one thing, but then also being a fraud that goes around and pretends that like cares about, hurt women or whatever while she's beating women behind the scenes, and like demands $35,000 to speak to like victims of abuse. It's like, no, that's insane to me. That's like, obviously that's like a Wall Street, going around, Wall Street broker going around saying like, yeah, damn it, why are all these rich people here? Like, and he's like sneezing money. It's just like, you can get rid of your wealth before you start criticizing others for having, who have a tenth of the amount that you do, for having too
yeah,
much. Like, I mean, just look at the WEF. A lot of those people are super rich, ultra, stuffed up, and then they're saying the average person has too much. Like, you'll be happier if you own less and have less. And I'm like, bro, you have a private jet, you have a
yeah.
yacht.
You first. You first.
Yeah, it's like, all right, do it, and then I'll do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Yeah, you're the leaders, so lead.
Yeah, but it's
I
just
you know,
crazy things like that.
I did martial arts for a long, and I always appreciated my teacher did it. I do it like when I teach my daughter. If you're a teacher and you're able to, you should be doing what you teach. So in martial
Yeah,
arts, if you're able to do now when you get older and stuff, like the guy who teaches me, he's like 76. I know
yeah,
he can't do it, but when you're able to do the drills or when you're telling a student to do something, you do it too. You should be able to, right? That's why you're a teacher. So
yeah,
I was born and grown up, like I started when I was 6. So I was grown up in that thing where it's like, just lead. You don't have to make a big deal about it, and people should respect you, by the way. But just you're the leader, so you do it, and then others will follow. Especially if you're good, right? If you're a martial art, like I want to see how good you are because I want to get there. And I want to know that you're actually nowadays. It's like, well, now I want to know you're actually good because maybe you're a fraud or something. When you're a kid, it's a little bit different than that. But yeah,
yeah,
I've always believed in that kind of stuff. So those people should be the leaders. Same thing with these activists. I just want them to lead. If you want to tell me all this stuff and you want to be so righteous, lead by example. I'll follow you, but you do it first. And they don't. So
yeah.
I'm
If
not going
that's
to
the new
follow you. Why would
rule,
I follow you?
yeah, if that's going to be the new rule, if you're going to change the boundaries of what constitutes, being a terrible person or somebody who attacks people, like then, obviously you're changing the rules for everybody, not just everybody else. Like
Right.
they always think that the rules should be different for everybody else, but not me. It's like, well, no, because like, yeah, now you're in a position where you're saying that it's evil to play a game that's not even directly connected to the person who wrote the original story, and while you're holding a phone that's made by child slaves, and you're on a platform
You're
that
on Twitter.
you claim is run by an evil African American billionaire who runs an evil car company that wants to kill people. It's like all the weird things people say, and it's like, well, if you really think that Tesla is out there to kill people, then
Yeah,
why do you have stock
why
in
do I see
Tesla?
your Twitter name? Like you should
Yeah,
deactivate your account. Yeah, these
yeah. I
people
see.
they
I
don't
see a lot
think
of
that far.
investors in his company. They buy his stock and then they like call him the most evil thing in the world. I'm like, sell his stock, get out of there then.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's like holding Hitler or Stalin stock. It's like, no, why would you buy stock in
Yep.
something you hate? It's just like, all right, well, that makes no sense. But yeah, final question. I keep saying final because I think of new things every time. Final question for you then is like, wrapping up thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy. What is your final verdict and how you like see it now, on its own, just as a game? Obviously, we covered the rest of the stuff, I think,
Yeah.
very well. I think the rest of it should be talked about. Like people should be afraid to have to talk about it, but unfortunately they have to on some like platforms and rules. But like just in general, I think we covered that pretty well, and people should be allowed to criticize and just say, enough's enough. But the fun part though is the game. So like, what are your final thoughts on the game? What are the final little things you want to see in the future?
Yeah.
And like I said, I would give it an 8 out of 10. My final thoughts personally are that it was very magical. Hogwarts is the best part, like just exploring the castle and digging into everything. The story was great except for the widely mentioned plot hole, but other than that, I think it was pretty great, and I had a lot of fun. And my character sounded so damn much like Daniel Radcliffe. It jarred
Yeah,
me.
that's Harry Potter. Yeah,
But
for
other
sure.
than that, I think it's a great game. I'm looking forward to more. I think it was a pretty good, even if it sacrificed open world, I don't mind because I loved Hogsmeade and Hogwarts so much, and flying. So what were your final thoughts on it, and what do you want to
Yeah.
see in the future?
I liked it a lot. I think as time goes on, I don't like it as much as I did like the first day. Like the first day was so magical, but I do think at its core, it is for sure like an above average game, even like a good game. I'd probably cap it there. There are weaknesses, but the strengths again, like the world itself, Hogwarts. I think the voice acting was a lot better than I thought. I thought the combat was a lot better. Like I didn't know what to really. I thought the combat would be good. Like I was on that side for like a year and a half before other people. Other people didn't like it originally. I liked it, and it still is extremely good. So I think overall, again, for their first, like I gotta take my cynic cap off and just take a couple steps back. Like this is their first. Like they've never done this before. So to be able to do this and have all of these eyes on them, right? Like it's different for a studio to make it and it sells like 1.5 million copies. Like that would still be good, but like 12 million in like a week. Like that's insane. That's a lot of pressure. That's a ton of pressure for first timers. So all that considered, they did great. It was a great first start. Definitely issues. You fix those issues. Again, like the RPG kind of mechanics, I'd say being the biggest thing. Make it an RPG or don't for the sequel, and all good. And congrats on the insane sales. I knew it was going to happen before. Again, I said it before everybody else said, at least I'm around. I was the first one to say all these things, but it's good to be proven right.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen several of your predictions just kind of fall right into place, especially with games. And it's just, come on. It's sometimes at some point people are gonna relax and wake up and say, "Hey, this dude kind of has his nose to the ground," and a lot of what he says actually turns out. So they should start betting on some of your predictions. So, but yeah, I like following your channel. Everybody else should check out PodcastNOW with because you're putting out things on films, video games mostly. And then some pop culture things, but like I loved your coverage of the Pirates movies. Before
I want to do it again. Like all it takes is one man coming back, and I'm in.
Yeah, give us an actual Pirates movie. There we'll have more to cover, but like that's what got me into your channel. But then I saw how big it expanded and everything, and so yeah, everybody should check out PodcastNOW on YouTube. And if you want to get him back on Twitter, I mean, say something there. I would love to have you back on there. I just don't understand where the suspension came from. I mean, but hopefully they'll be able to take a look at that and reverse it. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much for coming on. It was a great pleasure. I always have a lot of fun talking to you. So hopefully we'll be able to come on soon with like some news on Pirates and we can both dig into, and maybe even like something about Scream, but which is coming out soon. So yeah, thanks a lot, man. It was a great pleasure. So everybody should check out your channel.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, man.